for an independent church trial into the case. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
John, thank you. Wardsville, of course, one of the fastest growing towns in mid-Missouri. St. Stanislaus is a huge church. A lot of people go there. It was established back in 1880. The head of Columbia's Regional Economic Development Incorporated says American Airlines still plans to provide service from Columbia Regional Airport to Charlotte in the future. American is currently providing direct service from COU to Dallas-Fort Worth and to Chicago. Ready Stacy Button tells 93.9 The Eagle American made a pre-pandemic commitment to provide twice daily service to Charlotte. Stacy Button spoke on 93.9 The Eagle's CEO Roundtable.
So we received a federal grant to assist with that service, the startup for that service, and that is still absolutely planned for and intended.
Great.
It is really incumbent upon the airline to, see stabilization in travel at this point.
You can hear the host Fred Perry's full interview with Ms. Button on our website. That website is 939theeagle.com. Don't forget, coming up at 7:35 this morning, as Branden Rathert has mentioned, John Wood, who is running as an independent for the U.S. Senate in Missouri, will join us for a live interview right after the 7:30 newscast this morning. And there will be a strong agricultural theme at next week's Boone County Fair in Columbia. It starts a week from today. 5 p.m. is when the gates open. Boone County Fair Board President Jeff Cook tells Wake Up Columbia the gate fee for Tuesday through Thursday next week, $10. Children 6 and under are free, and he says that $10 goes a long way.
That $10, it also includes the Nick's Barnyard. They'll bring about 60 animals. The kids can walk through, feed the animals. They'll have to buy a little cup of feed from Nick and feed the animals. So they get to be right up close to some exotic animals and some farm life animals.
Don't forget the Boone County Fair's ham breakfast, Saturday, July the 23rd, 8 a.m. The tickets are $20 a piece. You're being encouraged to reserve tickets in advance. There will also be swine racing at the fair this year. That'll be starting next week. Our news is brought to you in the 6 o'clock hour by AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to airserve.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:07. In sports, let's start with the Cardinal baseball. The Cardinals offense rebounding as Corey Dickerson hit a home run last night. Cardinals beat the Phillies by a score of 6-1. So they split the 4-game series. The Cardinals now 47-42. They've not played great ball, but they're still right in the thick of things. 2 games behind the Brewers in the National League Central Division with the All-Star break pending. Now, the AP story this morning, folks, forgive me here, I can't help but chuckle. The AP points out Cardinals and Phillies are tied for the wild card spot. I really don't start talking about wild cards until we get into August. We're still a little early yet before the All-Star break. Point is, they're in pretty good shape right now, 47-42. It doesn't get any easier tonight, though. The Cardinals and the Dodgers at Busch Stadium. Red Hot Dodgers 9-1 in their last 10. They lead the National League West. First pitch right here. 93.9 The Eagles, 6:45 tonight. Royals beat Detroit. Doubleheader, a day-night doubleheader at the K. Kauffman Stadium. Monday, Royals win the first game 3-1. Nightcap 7-3. Bobby Witt Jr. for the Royals had 6 hits during that doubleheader in the game as well. He also had 3 stolen bases between the 3 games. Royals still in last place in their division. Sports is brought to you this hour by airserve.com. AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning. It's 6:08.
I'm ABC 17 Storm Track meteorologist John Ross. Today we are 10 degrees cooler, give or take, from Monday's high. The cold front yesterday leaving us cooler today and mostly sunny after some clouds exit this morning. Wednesday, mostly sunny, but temperatures are back on the warm-up, a few degrees warmer in the low 90s. Similar weather is in store for Thursday and Friday, where we enter rain chances into the forecast. I'm meteorologist John Ross, and that's your ABC 17 Storm Track forecast on 93.9 The Eagle.
All right now our temperature is 71 degrees.
93.9 Eagle Eye Traffic.
Traffic check, midmohires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. It is 6:09 this morning. By the way, I saw some really strong lightning towards what appeared to be the Jefferson City, perhaps Holt Summit area. But a little before 5 o'clock this morning, so that was going on, but it was dry here, so be prepared for that. Very quick traffic note here in Columbia, Highway 63. They're wrapping up work this morning, working on southbound 63 between Stadium and Grindstone. Be prepared for that. They should be done out there in the next few minutes if they're not done already. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes and breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle.
What is happening?
Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Radio Group World Headquarters.
Great news for the American people.
This is Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert, featuring Stephanie Bell, news director Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah, the producer.
This is why we listen to you. Get ready, pal.
And now, here's your host, Branden Rathert.
And I think there's a pretty good reason why. Because what is the top issue for Americans at this point, and who is trusted on that? The top issue for Americans at this point is not the January 6th committee hearings. It is not Donald Trump. It's inflation, according to 33% of Americans. That is the top issue. And who is trusted more on the issue of inflation? The margin right here is absolutely huge. Republicans are trusted over Democrats by 19 points. And that is why, at this particular point, Republicans still lead on that generic congressional ballot.
So most of us here in mid-Missouri, we already know this, but I got to defer to our news director, who is a journalist over the entire Zimmer Radio Network, from Springfield to Columbia to the Lakes to Jefferson City. Do I need to give some context there? I already know the I already know. If chances are, and Hannah knows this, because if I'm asking, then chances are, yeah, I got to give context. So the context,
especially because that's pretty powerful. I recognize the voice, but I'm drawing a blank on who it is.
And that's going to be the context. That is CNN.
Ah, okay.
Saying, listen, people simply do not care about the January 6th hearings. Here's what Americans care about, and I think especially us. I say we're in the breadbasket of Missouri. We're in the breadbasket of America. We don't care, and I think even if you are a regretful Biden voter, welcome in, man. Stephanie Bell and I, and Hannah, the producer, and Brian Hauser, we welcome you with open arms.
We do.
We're glad you're here, man. Thanks for checking this out. Mm-hmm. And here's what we like to tell people. If you're new to Talk-ish radio, is that what we call it?
Talk radio-ish.
Talk radio-ish. You're trying to figure out how the world works, why these things matter, how they affect you, whether you're in Fulton, whether you're in California, whether you're in Holt Summit, or whether you're in Surgeon. Here's how these things affect you, and that's what we try to do here. Check us out for a month, and then if after a month you don't like the show, we will gladly give you your money back. So we want to welcome you aboard. So that is key. That is coming from CNN. This on the heels, January 6th, more hearings get underway today, and I still do not understand. I thought, because there's more stuff they're talking about with the election, and was there fraud, wasn't there fraud, I thought that it was supposed to be about did Trump, did he send a letter to all those people that showed up at the Capitol and say, hey, show up at the Capitol and bust in and commit crimes? I thought that was the point of the January 6th hearings. But now it's kind of morphed because it shows their point. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. That's what this is proving. It's kind of morphed into, well, the election stuff. Well, I thought it was trying to determine whether or not Mr. DJT incited a riot that day. That's what I thought.
I thought so too, yeah. And I guess they're focused on the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys this week, and I guess some of it is, well, some of Trump's people showed up at events where they were also there, and I'm thinking, am I responsible for the actions of everyone who've ever been at an event or on a stage that I showed up to? I hope not.
If Brian Hauswirth right now told me, said, Branden, why don't you run down to Stadium in 63 and hit up the break time there, and I go do it, is that your fault?
Well,
the answer is no, Brian.
Yeah. I would never ask you to do that, but I mean,
right. And nobody said that stuff anyway. Again, that is the mindset of progressive thinking, because we see it whether it's January 6th. Well, it's somebody's fault that happened. Yeah, it's the fault of the people that did that. You can't blame the actions of somebody on that. It's the same thing, and we see it with our president right now. Well, it's Putin's price hike. It's this. He got lambasted yesterday because now he's blaming the economy on the Republicans. I thought it was Putin's thing, and now it's the Republicans. It's everybody else's fault. They just fail to accept responsibility or ownership. By the way, before we move forward here, Sheena and Eric Greitens, the custody issue, this really has nothing to do with the election. This has to do with Eric Greitens' family matters. There's been a little, and this is unfolding, by the way, in Boone County, but there's been basically a change to how they're doing because of all the attention this is getting, not just locally, nationwide.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that these type of hearings we just almost never cover. They never. Most of them, quite frankly, are fairly routine. This one is big because it involves the former governor who is a U.S. Senate candidate. But what's happened here is the hearing that was scheduled for Friday will now essentially not happen. They will submit written reports to the judge and take that up. And the impression I have is that I take it it's from both sides that it involves the children. They don't want that out there.
And the media attention, everybody flocking here from across the country, by the way. This is not just like our news partners at ABC 17 and Brian Hauswirth and the Post-Dispatch and the KC Star. There are people from across the country paying attention to this as it relates to the election. So they're saying, too much media attention, and above all else,
there's children.
There's kids involved.
Small, and they're small.
Yeah,
they're
young kids. More on these J6 hearings from CNN.
But the poor polling for Democrats heading into this year's midterm elections, have these hearings changed that outlook at all?
Not really. No.
Nope. You just hadn't done anything. Again, that is from CNN. And I love this. What are Dems saying about Dems? I want to do this one here real quick, too, because and I think this makes it real for people. These facts, when we talk about Joe Biden, the facts of why you are paying so much at the pump. By the way, gas prices down about 30 cents over the past month or so.
Yay.
As Hannah astutely points out, wait a minute, Rathert. Settle down on your celebrations.
It still sucks. It still hurts.
Yeah, it still hurts, and that's the thing. Because this is not just a political talking point. This is there are people, Stephanie with her 3 kids and her husband, and driving all across God's green creation, paying for this gas, and Hannah, and then you and your kids. These are real things. These aren't like conservative or American value talking points. These are real things affecting people. So we say, oh, yeah, gas is down 30 cents. But it's still in way beyond what it was since those tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. That's real stuff. These aren't conservative talking points.
The kids actually asked this week, why are we riding in the car so much? Because we started taking our car rather than our minivan because it gets better gas mileage. But they've noticed the change.
Really?
Yeah.
And your youngest is how old?
5.
5 years old.
Yeah.
And the oldest?
10.
10.
Yeah.
So you have 10 and 5-year-old kids in Ashland, nestled in their little home, probably still sleeping right now, and they're going to get up and start the day. And when Mom and Mr. Bell, when they go out and do stuff, you have 5-year-old kids saying, how come we're cramped into this smaller car?
Which is really, it's a first world problem. But, I mean, we are shifting our behaviors and our habits, and we're lucky that we have a second car that gets a little bit better gas mileage. But you think about people who are just not making trips that they did, that people who are struggling to make the commute to work. There's a lot of people changing their behaviors. And then you think how those changes in behaviors affect our small local businesses.
And when you have your little 5-year-old kid going, hey, so they're noticing again, not a huge problem, but they're noticing. Kids are noticing. More of what Dems are saying about Dems. CNBC host Joe Kernan is talking to a Biden economic. So all of these reasons you're paying more for Progresso soup and cherub tomatoes and gasoline and rent and all that.
Bacon.
Oh my gosh, there's these sparkling water. These flavored waters that are carbonated that I like to sip on a little bit because I still like sweet stuff and the carbonation. They increased, they're usually $1. You can get them $1 a bottle. Hy-Vee, they are now up to $1.50.
What?
Yeah, my cherry tomatoes, my progressive soup, and my sparkling water. I sound
Your
awfully...
diet is so weird.
I know. I sound real dainty almost. So not all of this is Biden's fault. It's the people he surrounds himself with. Listen, there are some things I am not the best at. I'm not good at details. Thank goodness I have Hannah and Stephanie around me. Joe, there's a lot of things he's not good at. So you pick good people to do those things that you're not good at. Well, they're not very good either. Jared Bernstein, he's one of Biden's economic advisors. He is on what he thinks is friendly territory yesterday. CNBC talking about Putin's price hike.
You guys got to patent that, trademark it, that Putin price hike. That you guys all use it again and again and again, and you know
it's real.
You're at 33% approval at this point, Jared. So I don't know.
So that's friendly territory. The CNBC host saying you have Jared Bernstein, that Putin price hike, it's real, and and friendly territory saying, yeah, well, you're in the 30% approval rating, so forget about it. How do you feel about John Wood coming on today?
Weird.
Yeah, he's here 7:35 this morning. He's that newish, outside-ish candidate in the Senate race. He's here at 7:35-ish, 7:35-ish. He's going to be here. One of your first opportunities to meet him. Congresswoman Hartzler is here at 8:10. She's going to come on reaction to the non-endorsement from Trump.
I mean, he was on the January 6th committee, right? He was an investigator. Maybe he has some insight to give us.
That's what I'm thinking. I want to find out about the guy. I already have some preconceived notions. I have some confirmation bias.
Now, Branden.
But I am going to seek to understand first. Listen to his story. I'm more interested. So what do you know when you were on? Because he's not on the I've heard it several times said incorrectly. He's not on the January 6th committee. He was. That is a fact. He was. But he's here coming up 7:35. Mr. Christopher Arps, he is going to be joining us, too. We're talking some Missouri politics with him. Coming up 6:35 this morning, 5 minutes from now. Daily D.C. Rundown with Stephanie Bell. What's under the circus tent this morning?
Hey, there might be a medication that previously you needed a prescription for that you might be able to get over the counter.
That is interesting. We're going to cover that coming up 5 minutes from now on 93.9 The Eagle. Imagine heading home every day. You pull up to your house and you're like, man, look, because you do this sometimes, right? You see somebody else's house and they got the nicely trimmed bushes and the beautiful flowers and everything, and you're like, man, what a good looking house. You've done that before, right? Why not do it to your house? Chances are Salter did that yard you like to look at every day. Salter Lawn Service can do the same for you. Salter One Call does it all. Whether you want some trees, you want a certain type of flowers, you want to go all out, Salter Lawn Service can do that for you. Maybe you just want, a few little tweaks. They can do that for you, too. And by the way, if you already have landscaping at your yard, Salter Lawn Service, they do landscaping maintenance. Because after a while, some of those things, maybe I need some new mulch, I need some of this. They will do that for you. Call Salter Lawn Service. Salter One Call does it all.
People are talking about Branden Rathert.
He's a jackass.
This is Wake Up Columbia, 93.9 The Eagle.
Using the word celebration, getting together, it's like we're going to a party, to a wedding today. You know, we're all receiving invitations, and there was no reason for this event to be called as it's called right now. Like, we're celebrating and getting together in the White House.
That is Manuel Oliver saying what I thought I heard Stephanie Bell say yesterday in this very daily D.C. rundown on 93.9 The Eagle. Joe is having a celebration. Look at what we did with guns. Context, again, very important here. This guy who's lambasting Joe Biden for calling this a celebration yesterday, he is a father of one of the Parkland, Florida high school shooting victims. So even he's saying, hey, you're calling this a party?
Yeah, I think it was really poor form. And you think, how many pieces of legislation generally has Congress passed? Not too many this year, but enough, right? That you could legitimately maybe have a celebration about. But to have a celebration, especially in light of all of the additional recent shootings, I think was really bad taste. And, you know, Joe Biden even said yesterday, if this law had been in place years ago, even last year, lives would have been saved. Tell me how. How? I mean, we've talked about how Illinois had red flag laws already and it didn't prevent anything. So, you know, I think if he's going to make claims like that, we need evidence for how he knows that if this law would have been in place, anybody would have been saved, because, I can't draw it from point A to point B.
And one of the things he did yesterday, and I'm going to play it here, but we don't. Oh, actually, let's play some of this.
Fort Hood, Texas, 2009.
Fort Hood, Texas, 2009. Number one, that was terrorism. That was on an army base with somebody who had weapons like that, but then there's more.
13 dead, 30 more injured. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, 1918.
Okay, that did not happen in 1918.
It sure didn't.
All right, sorry.
Well, and so beyond guns, we're still stuck on abortion. He issued that executive order. And so he said, yesterday he talked about preemption, which is a legal term. And so preemption, sometimes there's federal law that can preempt state law. And he said when a state law prohibits abortion and does not include an exception for the life of the pregnant person, that state law is preempted. But every single state law, including Missouri's, which is one of the most restrictive in all of the U.S., includes a medical emergency exception. So he's saying there's this federal law. It's got some long EMTALA, emergency something. He says, hey, you know, if a woman is having a medical emergency, then federal law is going to keep them safe. But again, state law already does that. Also, there's
I got to preempt the daily DC rundown.
You might be able to get birth control over the counter if the FDA approves it.
Coming up, Christopher Arps is going to be joining us. NAACP's trying to take some interesting action here in Missouri. That story 5 minutes from now.
That weather check brought to you by Callaway County Human Resources. Apply for the 911 telecommunicator and detention officer's jobs today.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. The Biden administration says even in states with new abortion bans, emergency abortion services are required under federal law.
The Department of Health and Human Services sent out guidance reminding healthcare providers of the federal law called the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. It says if state law prohibits abortion and does not include an exception for the life of the pregnant person, the state law is preempted.
Fox's Jill Nato. NASA releases pictures from its new space telescope this morning.
President Biden showed the first image of the batch at a White House event. One picture is said to be of a giant gaseous planet outside our solar system. The James Webb Telescope is considered a successor to the famous Hubble telescope, and though it only views the universe in infrared, today's photos are expected to be in full color.
Fox's Evan Brown. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 6:31 in Robinson's Saves You Time. We are expecting a cooler day today. If you want to call it cooler, 88 will never feel so good as it will after yesterday's heat. Our high today around 88. Clear skies tonight with a low near 65 degrees. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. Here are some of the stories we are working on for you in this 6 o'clock hour. We begin with an overnight shooting on Doris Drive in North Columbia. Columbia police detectives confirming one person was shot overnight. Now, Doris Drive is near Creasy Springs. ABC 17's Ben Fine reporting the shooting happening at about 3 o'clock, that the victim sustained minor injuries and was not taken to a hospital. Ben is reporting he saw officers going in and out of a home, placing evidence markers. In fact, he's doing a live shot right now on Channel 17. KMIZ is also reporting there was a second shots fired incident overnight on Orchard Lane. That is also in North Columbia. 2 young Boonville residents have been killed in one vehicle crash. Howard County, the victims identified as 20-year-old James Dorman and his passenger Riley Randolph. Ms. Randolph pronounced dead at the scene. Dorman pronounced dead at University Hospital here in Columbia. COU's $23 million new terminal set to be completed in September. It opens soon thereafter, 52,000 square feet compared to the current 16,000 square foot facility. Ready President Stacey Button is very excited about a new restaurant and bar that'll be inside of that.
I don't have any announcements right now, but we are working with a potential concessionaire. So I'll be excited to announce that when that comes to be.
And the Boone County Fair in Columbia opens 1 week from tonight. News brought to you by MidAmericaMortgage.us at 6:33. Turning our attention now to sports. The St. Louis Cardinals offense is rebounding. Corey Dickerson hit a home run last night. The Cardinals beat the Phillies by a score of 6-1. They split the 4-game series. Miles Michaelis, 5 strikeouts, 0 walks, 7 1/3 innings. Cardinals right now 47-42. They're 2 games behind the Brewers in the National League Central Division. Cardinals hosting the Dodgers tonight at Busch Stadium. Dodgers are red hot. They are 9-1 in their last 10. They lead the National League West. First pitch set for 6:45 tonight right here on 93.9. The Eagle, you hear it live tonight with, of course, John Rooney, Mike Claiborne, Ricky Horton there on the call. Kansas City Royals looked pretty good yesterday. They sweep the Monday night doubleheader. Actually a day-night doubleheader. The late game was in the evening. Detroit, the opponent, Kauffman Stadium. Royals win the first game 3-1. Nightcap 7-3. Royals sweep it. Bobby Witt Jr., the Royals, 6 hits during the doubleheader. He also had 3 stolen bases. That is between the 3 games combined. Our sports is also brought to you this hour by MidAmericaMortgage.us. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 6:34. Traffic check, MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com to find a job or to post your job opening today. And our roads right now, again, the biggest thing probably happening after we get done here, if it hasn't been done already, the work on 63. A quick reminder about the work on the Missouri River Bridge in Jefferson City. The eastbound lanes, 1 lane will be closed from 9 o'clock this morning until 3 as MoDOT works on that bridge. 1 lane in the eastbound direction, if you will, on the bridge. Be prepared for that with MoDOT. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. We have breaking news immediately. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
Chris. Hi, I'm Becky Arps, and I am so excited that you get to experience a bit of the thoughts I hear every single day. Enjoy.
Chris. When it comes to Missouri politics, this dude is one of the best. Chris Arps. If you go to ChrisforArps.com, as a matter of fact, he must be a busy dude, Steph. Dude keeps a schedule and everything on his website, ChrisforArps.com.
Oh, that's handy.
Shows you all the places he's going to be. 93.9 The Eagle, 635.
Dang, does he have a calendar? Like a media calendar?
You must be a high roller, Mr. Arps.
I have an excellent wife who's very organized and is very computer literate.
You know, it's funny. We were talking earlier. We're talking about, for example, and what Joe is doing on how he's screwing Mid-Missourians and how he has been doing it and all this stuff. And I tried to get his back a little bit, saying, you know, not everything is his fault. He surrounds himself with people. When you're president, you surround yourself with people that are supposed to handle these things. Well, he's failed at that, too. But I liken that to you surround yourself with good people. For example, when it comes to details and stuff, man, it's the women in my life. It's Hannah, the producer, and Stephanie Bell.
Basically anybody except you.
Anybody except me. I'm a big picture person. I know what we want to do, and we'll do it well. But the details, they're not my wives. But they're like my work wives.
I think that's the key for men. I went to my dentist last week, and he was saying the same thing about his dental assistants and the folks that work with them. He's like, these are my wives. If it wasn't for them, I would be lost. They keep me so organized, and they really, really take care of me. That's his exact words.
And
so
honestly,
I hear you, Dennis. Doctor, I know how you feel.
And honestly, I've told my husband I wouldn't mind a sister wife. A second one who helps us stay organized.
Hey, I do want to talk about John Wood and Vicky Hartzler, but I had some, and I've had it for a few days, haven't had it, but I was going to ask you, do you know, like, couples that hang out and married people say, well, if the wife were to die, that girlfriend gets the husband because they're such a nice guy. Martha Stewart, who likes to hang out with Snoop Dogg, who has a new bag of weed regarding Joe. But she was saying something about, hey, you know, if you die, I get your husband, right? And it's like a thing, apparently, amongst women.
I saw this. So there is somebody in my life that my husband calls number two. Yeah. But she's married now, so that wouldn't really work out. But my thing was, Grey's Anatomy was big when we walked down the aisle, and Burke left Christina at the aisle. And I said, this wedding has been so much work. Everyone's going to be there. I'm not doing it again. So if you happen to like get cold feet and walk out, I'm picking somebody from the audience and I will get married that day. And there won't be another chance for you. And so he said, that's fine. You can have a number two as long as I have a number two. And he kind of identified one of my bridesmaids. Like, if you run out on me, this is who I'm going to marry.
Let me tell you something from a guy's point of view. He's probably got a number 2 and a 3 and a 4. But I encountered this like 7 years ago. I was dating a gal, and she said, just so you know, if this ever happens, this dude is going to be my husband. And his name is Chad. And to this day, Chad and I are still good friends. And after I met him, I'm like, yeah, I could see why if his wife dies, you want him. I would take him. I would, because he's such a good guy. You know what I mean?
Well, and you'll have to find that Martha Stewart audio, because she wasn't just saying like, oh, maybe I would want to marry. She said, sometimes I wish people would die. Yep. It was really, really dark.
Well, depending on...
What a great morning political conversation.
I know, right? We do have some business stuff we want to talk about, but this is far more enticing. I've got the Martha Stewart audio. Maybe we'll do that at, if we don't do it at 6:55. If we don't do it at 6:55, we probably won't do it at 7:55 either. Seriously, John F. Wood, I think we already know in the political realm, folks who pay attention to politics and how politics are going to affect them. John F. Wood, he's the guy put forth by Danforth. Hey, we want you to kind of be this independent candidate. I think there's already a lot of preconceived notions, and probably correctly, about this guy. I don't understand the whole idea of throwing this wrench into the race. It just blows me away that it's even happening from a legendary name like Danforth. But he's going to be on the show. He's here at 7:35 this morning. But your reaction, is it pretty much in line with what most of us in our little circles are saying? Like, what the hell is going on here?
Look, I think there's a lot of inside baseball at play here regarding John Woods and Jack Danforth wanting him to run as an independent. If you remember a few years ago when Adam Schweik was running for governor, I think it was, or Tom Schweik was running for governor, and there was a particular political consultant here in Missouri that was running a campaign against him. And if you remember, Tom Schweik committed suicide. And Jack Danforth accused this political consultant of of adding to his death, I guess, because of a Politico ad that came out a couple of days before. So I think this move by Jack Danforth is bad blood against this political consultant because this political consultant is running the campaign of Eric Schmidt. And so I think this is a monkey wrench into that if Eric Schmidt wins, then this guy will be here to try to siphon off votes from Eric Schmidt in the November primary. So I think it's a lot of bad grapes when it comes to that, is why he's throwing this guy into the race. I also think it's a shot at Josh Hawley. If you remember, Jack Danforth wanted Josh Hawley to come into the race. And then when Josh Hawley did his thing on January 6th, didn't certify the votes, Jack Danforth said that this is the worst political mistake he's ever made in his life. And as we know, Josh Hawley has endorsed Vicky Hartzler. So I think that's a shot to hurt Josh Hawley as well in the fall if Hartzler wins the primary. Plus, too, I want to give you my take on why I think Donald Trump did not endorse Vicky Hartzler. I think he didn't endorse her because Josh Hawley has endorsed Vicky Hartzler. And as we know, former President Trump does not like to share credit. Josh Hawley is being viewed as a potential 2024 presidential candidate. And so I think that is the reason why Vicky Hartzler didn't get the Trump endorsement, because Hawley endorsed her, and he doesn't want to share credit if she wins. I really do believe that.
Hartzler's here at 8:10 this morning on 93.9 The Eagle. Chris Arps, chrisarps.com.
We were both on Newsmax yesterday. It was kind of weird.
I heard the question that, and I forget the name of the host. You know the dude. You're on Newsmax.
Rob Finnerty. I gave him that question.
Did you really?
He texted me. He's like, hey, I've got Vicky Hartzler coming on later on the show. Give me a question that will make some news.
Oh, man. Here's
the exact text.
Let's check this out.
You can forget about Vicky Hartzler for Senate from the great state of Missouri. He claims that you called him and asked for the endorsement. What do you make of that, and how does that affect this race?
Good work. Chris Arps gave Rob Finnerty that question. Nice.
Rob's a great guy.
Thank you for being here with us this morning.
Well, what do you think of that? What do you think of that, guys? You think maybe, I want to get your opinion. Do you think that he did not endorse Hartzler because Josh Hawley has endorsed her and he doesn't like to share credit?
Here's what I think.
Plausible thing?
And we covered this in depth yesterday. Number one, ardent Trump supporter. I thought, number one, the way he did that was mean-spirited. But as far as the Hawley thing, I think it's that. I think Stephanie brought up a good point about it's a game show. He's eliminating who it is. Here's what I think. He's going to wait to see the most recent polls leading up to the primary, which is 21 days away. Trump is going to wait to see who is leading in the polls. The very latest poll that came out shows Hartzler in the lead by a smidge. Now, margin of error would erase that lead, but that's what I think Trump is doing. He's waiting to see who leads in the polls.
I agree, and I still wouldn't count out. I know Trump likes to pick winners, but I still wouldn't count out Billy Long. Back in March, he gave Billy Long endorsement, non-endorsement that was very, very strong. That would catapult Billy Long to the top of the race, most definitely, because the president does like Billy Long very, very much, but he's just not doing very well in the polls. I think he's at 7 or 8%.
Do you really think a Trump endorsement, you endorse Schmidt, Hartzler, Greitens, kind of a wash, but you think if he were to endorse somebody like Billy Long that he could vault from fourth place to a potential lead just like that in the polls?
I really do, and we saw that happen in Ohio. The guy that won the primary up there, he was languishing in third or fourth place. Trump endorses him. In 2 weeks, he shoots to the top and becomes the nominee and probably the next senator from Ohio. So, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I just don't agree with that. I don't think there's a bunch of people. Because here's my thing, because here's another thing I wanted to ask you. There are so many people. I feel like you can look at the polls, you can talk to people in politics, you can talk to people in the checkout aisle at Mosier's and ask them, hey, do you know where you are in the Senate race?
That's the cat, sorry.
Say you got a pet goat in the house?
I promise her. That's what she does when she needs attention.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow. That's the cat that Christopher left out of the bag?
Yeah, that's the cat. Sorry.
Where were we?
You were standing in the grocery line.
Standing in the grocery line, talking to somebody at one of our local landmarks, Mosier's grocery store. I still feel like there are so many, and I was listening on Gary Nolan's show last week. There are still so many people that are undecided, but I just don't think that any of those people wait. Well, I'm going to wait and see who Trump endorses. I know who I like and I know who I don't like, and I'll tell you, for me, my personal experience, whoever Trump endorses, that will have no sway in who I vote for in the Senate primary.
I think those people are waiting to see what Trump does because, I mean, if you look at the four major candidates, there's not a dime bit of difference between any of them, any of their positions. If you really look at it, I think those 17 or 18% undecided are looking to see what Trump's going to do because there's not, as I said, there's not really a dime's worth of difference between their positions.
Do you think? Actually, here's the question. We're going to take a break real quick. Come back. I want to get your answer. I want to ask not what the polls are showing, but I want to ask you the question. Do you think folks know, the majority, do you think most folks even know who they are going to vote for? And the other thing, since you're kind of outside of our 3rd and 4th congressional district on this, I kind of want to get your thoughts on what you are hearing incidentally regarding our 4th congressional district.
Wake Up Columbia with an eye on the world and a focus on you. 93.9 The Eagle.
'24 presidential election, if it were held today, who would you vote for? 44% Biden, 41% Trump. Your reaction to that, Devin?
So I got to tell you, we've been playing this thing. We're hanging out with Chris Arps, chrisarps.com. Great Missouri-based when it comes to politics. Chris knows Missouri politics. I want to ask him about as an outsider, as somebody that kind of outside of the political realm, like if you're hanging out at a bar or something, what people are saying about a race around here. But we've been playing this game, what Dems are saying about Dems. CNN, MSNBC, CNBC. We've highlighted audio already this morning. They're going after Joe. They're going after his people. And I think that gives realization to all of our new friends that are listening to Wake Up Columbia that are regretful Biden voters. And they're kind of going, okay, I get it. This isn't conservative talking points. This isn't let's bash the president. These are all factual things, have real life negative effects on mid-Missourians. But now that's Fox. That was Fox. That's Martha McCallum on Fox saying, well, our polling shows if Trump were to go to head-to-head with Joe Biden would win today. And that's on Fox. Christopher, is the world upside down right now?
I don't think the world is upside down, but if you remember during the 2020 presidential campaign where we had COVID lockdowns and all of that going on, Joe Biden basically campaigned from his basement. And the press didn't hold him accountable. They didn't ask him any hard questions. They basically helped him get elected. And now what we have is a president with a 30% approval rating. That's 6 points away from Richard Nixon's all-time low of 24% after he left the White House. And I think it's to the point now where the media can't hide it anymore. Yeah. And if they know that if they want to keep any credibility left, that they've got to start really criticizing this president and showing what the rest of us already know is that this president is incapable of doing the job. I mean, how do you cover up for a guy who's shaking hands with invisible people? How do you shake a hand? How do you cover for a guy who, if you look at his White House schedule, does one, maybe two events a day? How do you cover for a guy that when a report came out yesterday that they wanted to do a 10-day overseas trip, and his aides were concerned about that because they don't think he has the stamina to do a 10 days overseas trip. So all of this stuff coming out, the media can't hide it anymore. They're basically just trying to save their credibility. And I think they are stepping up or setting the stage for Joe Biden to resign or leave office after the midterm shellacking that they're going to get.
And one of the things I wonder, too, because I know several months ago, CNN, they've gone through a lot of leadership changes, and they have been saying publicly over a period of several months now, you know, we're going to try to get away from some of the opinion stuff and try to do news. And I tell you, as somebody, and you know me, I'm an ardent, as much as I don't like sitting around watching the news on TV, I like to follow it, not because I already know what the news is, but I like to see how they cover it, how they follow it. I am fascinated by that. And I got to tell you, from what I am seeing, CNN is trying to get a little. So you're seeing it, too?
I see it. I'll tell you how I see it. You remember a couple of weeks ago, when we had the Roe v. Wade decision. On the Sunday shows, that's all that they led off with. That's all they talked about. CNN, on their Sunday show, they talked about Biden being overseas, and they talked about Ukraine. And the third topic that they brought up was Roe v. Wade. So, yeah, CNN, I saw it firsthand. CNN is trying to become more of a news organization than an opinion organization. And I think that highlights it tremendously when Roe v. Wade wasn't the lead story. It was the third story for CNN that weekend.
Well, that's interesting because so you're seeing it too, because when they were saying this, and they kind of, I don't want to say they were launching any kind of media blitz or campaign about it, but CNN had been saying we're going to try to go more straight news. And so I've been watching, and I'm like, yeah, they really are. I'm glad to notice that I'm not the only one. I'm not saying I am a fan.
I still don't trust them, though.
Oh, yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, you can look at polling. Very few people trust any of these national news outlets anymore. Hence, local talk Radio with
But
Stephanie.
they do trust the Branden Rathert morning show on 93.9 The Eagle. I heard that's a very trustworthy news outlet.
Again, I'll go back to that's why I have people like Stephanie Bell and Hannah, the producer, here to cover that stuff. Chris Arps, hey man, we love you. Oh, I want to ask you. I know you're out of the district, but on the political fringes of where you are on your radio show you host in St. Louis, you're on radio stations all across the state. Street chatter, do you hear any buzz about the 4th Congressional District race, seat currently held by Hartzler? She's leaving it, obviously, running for Senate. Are you hearing anything in your neck of the woods regarding our 4th Congressional District race?
I have to say I have not heard anything about that race. The only time that I was really hearing anything about the race was when State Representative Sarah Walsh was in that race, and we all know her connection to Vicky Hartzler. Her late husband was the press secretary. But that was the only time that I was really hearing anything about the race. When she dropped out, really nothing.
Chris Arps, check out his website, ChristopherArps.com. He's got some really cool stuff on there, including his calendar, his list of upcoming. Hey, we love you, man.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a great week.
By the way, we were talking about last week the size of dudes' guns in some of these campaign ads. Mark Alford in that 4th Congressional District race. He has a new campaign ad. His weapon of choice, that's coming up at 7:10.
Mexico's president is north of the border. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, visiting President Biden this morning at the White House.
There's no shortage of topics the two men are expected to discuss, whether it be the economy, climate change, and yes, immigration. The White House under intense pressure from both parties to address what's happening with the migrant crisis. The latest government data shows there has been a huge uptick in the number of migrant encounters.
Fox's Mark Meredith at the White House. Tonight, the president will take a flight to Israel to start a Middle East trip. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan.
If we act now to create a more peaceful and stable region, it will pay dividends for the American national interest and for the American people for years to come.
Vladimir Putin will also go to the region next week, taking a trip to Iran.
The Russian president also has a separate meeting planned with President Erdogan of Turkey, who helped mediate talks between Russia and Ukraine representatives in Istanbul back in March. Putin's trip announcement comes a day after the U.S. warned that Iran could provide Russia with drones for its actions in Ukraine.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Following the Supreme Court's ruling allowing states to regulate abortion, abortions. The Biden administration is telling doctors federal law requires them to provide abortions in emergency cases.
It says to the effect of, if state law prohibits abortion and does not include an exception for the life of the pregnant person, the state law is preempted.
Fox's Jill Nato, a judge in Utah, has temporarily held up that state's ban on most abortions, while another judge has blocked Arizona's law giving unborn babies the same rights as citizens. The Democrat-led House committee is readying another hearing in its investigation into the Capitol riots.
The hearing today will look at groups such as the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and their access to former President Trump as the riot ensued.
Fox's Gernal Scott, the former president, critical again of this probe, posting online this morning that it's relying on fake and made-up stories. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:03 and Robinson saves you time. It is going to be a pleasant day today, much less humid than what we have seen. We are at 72 degrees right now in Columbia, 70 degrees in Jefferson City. Our high today expected to be around 88 degrees. It'll be sunny. Clear skies tonight with a low near 65 degrees. Jefferson City did have some lightning overnight and some rain here in Columbia. We did not record any precipitation, at least since midnight tonight. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. Here's some of the stories we are working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. Let's begin with that shooting overnight on Doris Drive in North Columbia. It's near Creasy Springs Road. ABC 17's Ben Fine reporting that one person was shot overnight apparently on the street there on Doris Drive. He is reporting the victim sustained minor injuries and was not taken to a hospital, but that the person had been shot. So again, no other details are being released at this time. No arrests have been made. Friday's Columbia court hearing involving Missouri U.S. Senate candidate Eric Greitens' family court case has been called off. ABC 17's Layla Mitchell reports from the Boone County Courthouse.
A judge agreed that Sheena and Eric Greitens will no longer have to come to the Boone County Courthouse for a hearing on Friday to decide where to hold their family court case. Now, each parent will submit their sides of the case in writing. The judge will then decide whether or not to allow Sheena's request to move the case to Texas, where she now lives. An advocate for the children called today's hearing out of concern for the children and the constant media attention surrounding the case.
ABC 17's Layla Mitchell there reporting from the Boone County Courthouse in Columbia. One vehicle crash that happened Monday afternoon in Howard County has killed two Booneville residents. Missouri State Troopers tell us Monday afternoon's crash happened on Highway 124 as James Dorman's vehicle traveled off the road. It hit a telephone pole and then overturned. The 20-year-old Dorman pronounced dead at University Hospital. His 19-year-old passenger, Riley Randolph, pronounced dead at the scene. $15 million addition in renovation at the Columbia Area Career Center is being planned. Columbia School Board voting last night to approve a $783,000 architect services agreement for the project. That has been a top priority for CPS Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood. $15 million project being funded by an April bond issue that was approved by CPS voters. The Diocese of Jefferson City says a former pastor at a historic church in Wardsville is now under FBI investigation for alleged financial discrepancies while he was the pastor.
The Jefferson City Diocese says the investigation revealed that Father Ignacio Medina wrote checks to himself and a sibling from a church account totaling $300,000. The diocese says Medina has since repaid the church. Father Medina pastored at Wardsville for 9 years and at several other mid-Missouri churches as well. The FBI is investigating, and the bishop is calling for an independent church trial into the case. John Marsh, Zimmer News Network.
John, thank you. Criminal charges have not been filed in this case at this time. They have not at this time, and St. Stanislaus Parish was established back in 1880. And the head of Columbia's Regional Economic Development Incorporated, Reddy, says American Airlines still plans to provide service from Columbia Regional Airport to Charlotte in the future. American is currently providing direct service from COU to Chicago as well as Dallas-Fort Worth. Reddy's Stacy Button tells 93.9 The Eagle that American made a pre-pandemic commitment to provide twice daily service to Chicago. She says that is, quote, absolutely planned for and intended, end of quote. She also says it's incumbent upon the airline to see some stabilization in travel at this point. You can hear her full interview with 93.9 The Eagle's Fred Perry on our website. Our website is 939theeagle.com. They also talk about some other things, including the new terminal, and she will have some news shortly, she believes, about a new restaurant and bar that'll be opening at the new Columbia Regional Airport Terminal. She can't announce anything at this time. Our news is brought to you by the Candy Factory. They're in downtown Columbia. Learn more at thecandyfactoryonline.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 7:07. In sports, the Cardinals offense, pretty impressive last night. Corey Dickerson hit a home run. Cardinals beat the Philadelphia Phillies 6-1, so they split the 4-game series. Miles Michaelis goes 7 1/3 innings in this game. 5 strikeouts, 0 walks, pretty workmanlike. Had a lot of control in the game. St. Louis 47-42, 2 games behind the Brewers in the National League Central Division. It will not get easy tonight. The Cardinals hosting the Dodgers at Busch Stadium. Dodgers are the leaders in the National League West. Got an impressive lineup, lots of all-stars on that team. Great pitching, great defense, really not too many weaknesses. They lead the NL West. First pitch 6:45 right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Royals sweeping the day-night doubleheader with Detroit at Kauffman Stadium on Monday. They win the first game 3-1. 7-3 the nightcap. The Royals win that. Bobby Witt Jr., 3 stolen bases between the games. He had 3 stolen bases between them, and he also had 6 hits during the doubleheader between the Royals and Detroit. Sports is brought to you this hour by Witt Print Shop, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. Our news time, 7:08. All right, John, thank you, and great work this morning on television with Megan. It is partly sunny, 72. Our traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com to find a job or to post your job opening today. Roads here locally pretty quiet. 2 very quick notes. They'll be working on the Missouri River Bridge. 1 lane will be closed, the eastbound side. 1 lane closed from 9 this morning until 3, so be prepared for that. If you're heading to Warrenton or St. Louis, maybe Wright City today, they are still working on that overpass that got struck by the tractor trailer. Mile marker 180. The town is called High Hill. 2 words, High Hill. You know where it is, I-70, Montgomery County. They've got a lane closed right now on both sides for about till about 11 o'clock this morning as they continue to work in that area, so be prepared for that. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Did Trump commit a crime to change the 2020 election results? And we can compare April of 2022 versus now. Overall, in April of 2022, it was 46%. Now, it's that same 46%. Among Democrats, we see that it's actually dropped 2 points, although within the margin of error, 87% back in April of 2022.
What Dems are saying about Dems, that is Brian Hauswirth, our news director, says, do I got to give context here?
Let's give context.
All right.
Dang, newsman always thinks we need context.
Facts and journalism and making sure we get the story right without bias. We love her, Brian Hauswirth. Love Hannah, the producer. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Welcome into the show, man. We are glad you could be here. I think that's important, especially as we welcome in droves of regretful Biden voters, whether you're in Montauk County, Howard, Randolph, Boone, Coleman. We welcome you, and we get it. We feel your frustration. And none of us will ever sit here and say, is somebody, if you voted for Biden and you're trying to figure things out, and if you know somebody who that, they don't get it yet or they're starting to figure it out, do us a favor and say, you ought to be checking these guys out. Stephanie Bell and Hannah and Brian, they give you the straight scoop on 93.9 The Eagle. I hope you will do that favor for us and try to get folks, especially younger folks. I'm a big believer in we've got to get younger folks onto this American message. Some people call it the conservative message. These are American ideas, man. But that is CNN saying, Democrats, and you heard this pollster, his name is Harry Enton. He's saying, so when these hearings started in April, 3 months ago, this number of Dems believe that whatever kind of crime was committed. And by the way, the whole thing is shifted. I thought they were trying to show that Trump was responsible for making those people go and do that stuff. But now it's evolved, I think, into election stuff.
Yeah, they're talking about election fraud. Yeah. The stuff in Georgia and what Trump had to say about folks in Georgia, and they were citing this letter and talking about fraud, and the letter pointed out irregularities. And so I think these folks they're trying to make the hearings for TV, and when you get into election irregularities, it gets a little bit boring, I will say. It gets a little bit legal. And so I think in a lot of ways, and this has been pointed out, there's a lot of conflating between what, the election fraud and an election irregularities. And we've said it here, there were a lot of election irregularities. There were things that, should be looked at and should be corrected going forward. But now we're way far away from January 6th once we get down that rabbit hole.
And that was the thing for the January 6th hearings, right? Was to show Trump was responsible for making those people go and do what they did. But now they've shifted it. It shows they're misguided. They don't know what they're doing, and they can't prove any of it. And to a larger point there from CNN's Harry Enton, there are now, when the first hearing took part, man, it was springtime. Temps were probably in the 60s on that first day of the January 6th hearing here in mid-Missouri, the first day of those hearings. Fewer Democrats now believe that there was any kind of crime committed than when Democrats, fewer believe it.
And so instead of trying to prove that, right, instead of trying to prove things about the riots on January 6th, they've shifted to what we're trying to prove is that the election wasn't stolen and that when Trump makes that claim, he was wrong. And I think a lot of people knew that from the very beginning, right? And so that the election is what it is. There was some irregularities. There wasn't enough to overturn the outcome of the election, but that's an easier claim for them to prove, that Trump's wrong about the fact that the election was stolen. And so they've figured out, I don't think we're going to be able to really show that he was the instigator of all of the riots, but we can show what he said that some people believed who were involved in January 6th is wrong. And that's an easier sell. So we're going to change the game here and try to prove that.
And be careful, because I saw it specifically, Associated Press, saying the deadly January 6th riots. So one person died on the day of the riots, and it was an unarmed protester who was shot by a cop. So that's how the media tries to mislead you. You know what else is happening nationally? So those hearings, I think they start today for anybody who's still following. I think there's a Brady Bunch marathon on TNT. I'm going to be watching that instead. Here's a race here in Missouri. Not only is the race in Missouri, is our U.S. Senate race getting a lot of attention, but locally, this whole thing with Sheena Greitens and Eric Greitens, former governor, of course, left office. We know the whole story, but this has to do with a family matter. I always get delicate talking about this stuff, but a judge has said, listen, we're going to do this. And this is specifically in family court.
It's in family court. It's at Boone County. And I can tell you that I'm just trying to, off the top of my head, I think I've talked about this in the 6 o'clock hour. Branden, I can't think of the last time any family court has ever gotten any media coverage in this town. I mean, maybe and I've covered a lot of court hearings over the years. Primarily they're criminal, occasionally civil, but this is only being covered because he is a former governor, and of course he is a U.S. Senate candidate, and rightly so. It's absolutely newsworthy. But there are 2 small children involved. So as Layla Mitchell reported, she went to the hearing yesterday from our news partner. The judge in this case basically wants them to submit their positions in writing. They don't have to go to court. Those ads probably had something to do with it. There are some ads right now. If you watch the ads, you hear a woman's voice talking, and it's kind of implied that Sheena talking. Well, it's not Sheena. It is someone that's quoting from the court document. But she's been in court, and there's a lot of serious things being thrown around. Basically, she wants the case transferred to
Matter of
Texas.
fact, we got a text yesterday from Stuart, 874-9390. Said to him that was one of, and this guy, Eric Greitens supporter, said that was one of the most powerful ads that he'd seen, or probably one of the most damning ads against Eric Greitens.
I became afraid for my safety and that of our children due to Eric's unstable and coercive behavior. Physical violence toward our children.
So it's somebody, and what they're doing is they're narrating actual court documents. And I will say this:
probably an affidavit. I'm not exactly sure what that document is.
It was on Randy Tobler's show. He's here 4 to 6 weekdays, except for this week. He's on vacation, but he was talking to people and said, "Okay, if Eric Greitens does win the primary." And he said specifically, I want people that aren't Greitens supporters to weigh in on this. Let's say you're supporting Hartzler, Schmidt, whoever, or maybe this John F. Wood guy. He's here at 7:35, by the way. Hear his story. Tell your friends about that, dude. You got to tune into the Eagle. Check this guy out. But he said that was one of the things that did it for him. But on the Randy Tobler show, he was saying, if you are not a Greitens supporter, let's say you support Schmidt, McCloskey, whoever, they don't win. General, do you still vote for Greitens, or do you vote for the Democrat? And without fail, 100% of the folks checking in on the Tobler show, they all say, nope, Greitens still. And he does. We love his politics. On a personal note, I went through a custody battle. I had a week-long trial in Twin Falls, Idaho, one of the ugliest things I've ever been through in my entire life. If I were in a custody dispute for my kids, as a man, as a human being, me personally absolutely would not be out on a campaign trail running for office and doing those ads. That is me personally. That speaks nothing to the politics of Eric Greitens. As a man, and anybody who knows, you ever been in a custody dispute involving your kids, that is beyond front and center in your life. And I think that, listen, you're putting this as a priority, and I don't know what's happening in their family life, but that's the thing that I personally find disturbing. And the ads with the guns and all that stuff, yeah, I get it. That's what politicians do. But under this, you're talking about custody of your kids. Your kids. To me, that says a lot about a person.
And I disagree with you and those folks that called into the Tobler show that say that, if Greitens wins the nomination, that they will vote for him in the general.
You disagree that they said that, or you wouldn't vote for him is what you're saying?
I'm not saying what I would personally do. I disagree that that most people will just vote Republican no matter who the candidate is. And I know, talking to folks in Republican circles, there are people out there who say, I never cast a vote. I never did cast a vote for Eric Greitens. That in the general, once he won the primary, in the general for the governor's race, they either switched, they voted for someone else. And we're having John Wood on the show. There's going to be a third option. And I think there are people out there that, should he win the nomination, he puts Republicans at risk. That there are people out there who will not vote for him if he gets the nom. And that makes me really nervous.
Yeah. That's kind of why I was kind of like, man, people are saying still without a doubt Without fail. I don't think there was one person that said that they would vote for a Democrat. They're saying, nope, I would still vote for Greitens if he were to win the primary. So you've got Eric Greitens. He's got the ads with the guns, and he's got even another ad with guns. We're back.
And a big truck.
Big truck and all this stuff. And then you've got Eric Schmidt, who's got a torch.
Blowtorch?
Flamethrower. Mark Alford. Now we switch to the 4th Congressional District race. He's got a campaign ad. His weapon of choice.
So I put down my microphone and picked up a megaphone to be your voice to tell the liberal woke mob, we're taking back America.
So he's using a megaphone instead of guns.
I can't do it. Branden made homemade megaphones for us.
Is that a paper cup? What is that?
Well, it used to be until I cut the bottom out of it.
Did you steal that from the break room?
Stole 2 of them from the break room. My weapon of choice is this little megaphone this morning.
A little one?
Little one.
There's another new ad out in the auditor's race, I guess, today. David Gregory has an ad out in that statewide race. He has no props. And so, I'm wondering, because I was thinking everybody who's had an ad so far, I think, has had a prop. I guess Vicky Hartzler, it hasn't been holding anything like that's on fire or that shoots or anyway. I don't know what her prop is, but do you have to have like a signature prop?
I guess.
That's such a dude thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Women are more like to the point. Men are like, look at this cool thing I have.
Let me distract your attention from the fact I'm going to spew a bunch of BS just like all the other candidates are talking, but look at the size of my gun, man. You're right. That is a dude thing. All right, coming up, we're going to do What's Hot with Hannah. What do you got for us this morning?
Oh, my gosh. If you're watching on YouTube, you might see me shove a megaphone. No, so I know it's Chiefs Kingdom, but the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of caused some controversy, and their fans are not happy.
All right, it's a big rival of the Chiefs. Steelers causing issues. What's the deal there? That's What's Hot with Hannah. We'll do that 7:25-ish on 93.9 The Eagle. Hodges Roofing and Siding, they've been around since 1976. And, I used to think, okay, businesses, we've been doing this since 1897. But you know what? Hodges Roofing and Siding, HodgesRoofingandSiding.com. That should tell you a lot. Since 1976. There's only 2 people out of the 4 or 5, all the people in this building this morning. There's just very few of us that have been around since 1976. That's a long time. You learn a few things when you've been around that long, and that's the same thing with Hodges Roofing and Siding. And what I've learned with them being around so long, it means they are good at what they do, and that's important. Because you can come out and do it for a few years. If you don't get repeat business, any of that stuff means you're not doing a good job, means you're not going to stay around for a long time. Hodges Roofing and Siding. And I do want to emphasize the and siding. It's not just roofs. Siding, their siding work, spectacular. But I know you're smart. You're going to check it out for yourself. HodgesRoofingandSiding.com.
Catch Wake Up Columbia on demand anytime, all the time at 939theeagle.com.
Good morning. It's 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:28.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
And now I know this is Chiefs Kingdom, okay, but I'm going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I hope that nobody gets too angry about that. Uh-oh, I can see the text messages rolling in now. So Heinz Field, where the Pittsburgh Steelers have played for over 20 years at this point, is being renamed. And the Steelers fans are really ticked off about what the new name is going to be. And it's going to be Acrisure Field, which is not, it does not roll off the tongue. It's not catchy at all. And basically, Steelers fans on Twitter are like, nah, I'm still going to call it Heinz Field because that sucks.
Well, what's this? The stadium in St. Louis has changed. Like, the hockey stadium has changed how many times over and over, and people always call it by the last name. There's tons of things where, you know, it was the Savvis Center what is it now? I don't even know.
Enterprise Center, used to be Kiel Center, then...
yeah.
But Acrisure?
Yeah, that's
I don't
a hard
even know
one.
if I'm saying it correctly, but it's some, like, insurance group. And, yeah, Steelers fans are not happy about it.
Coming up 5 minutes from now, John Wood. He's the guy from basically that Danforth has put forth in this U.S. Senate race. Hear his story 5 minutes from Let Your Friends Know. Let's hear his story. Hartzler, she's here at 8:10. 8:35, which is better, St. Louis or Kansas City? And we're talking barbecue, not necessarily the cities.
That weather check is brought to you by the Callaway County Human Resources. Apply for the 911 telecommunicator and detention officer jobs today.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. President Biden meets with Mexico's President Lopez Obrador this morning.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says the U.S. and Mexican governments are working on migration and protection.
We expect the two leaders to discuss their common vision for North America and common efforts to address global challenges.
Lopez Obrador was last at the White House in November.
Fox's Jared Halpern. With more state abortion bans in effect, the Democratic National Committee is pushing abortion rights as a national campaign issue.
Ads are hitting the websites of more than 20 lifestyle publications, warning that Republicans' ultimate goal is to outlaw abortion nationwide. The campaign is also promoting what the DNC calls a week of action devoted to defending abortion rights.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Heathrow Airport in London is telling airlines to stop selling tickets this summer and capping daily departures at 100,000 passengers because of overcrowding and staff shortages. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 7:31 and Robinson saves you time. Right now we do have partly sunny skies. It is 72 degrees here in Columbia. We're expecting sunny skies. Our high around 88 degrees expected today. Clear skies tonight with a low near 65. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. Here's some of the stories we're working on for you in this 7 o'clock hour. We begin with an overnight shooting incident here in Columbia. It happened in North Columbia on Doris Drive near Creasy Springs. One person shot overnight. ABC 17's Ben Fine reporting the shooting happened at about 3 o'clock this morning. The victim sustained minor injuries. He was not taken to a hospital. Anyone with information is urged to call Columbia Crime Stoppers 875-CHIPS. Meantime, Columbia Area Career Center, an aging facility, will be receiving a $15 million addition and renovation.
Columbia's school board voted last night to approve a $783,000 architect services agreement for the project, which is being funded by an April bond issue approved by CPS voters. The Career Center project has been a top priority for CPS Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood and for school board member Blake Willoughby, who visited a Kansas City area career center this spring. Mr. Willoughby is excited about a 21st century career center and the renovations that are planned. I am Logan Weber, Zimmer News Network.
All right, Logan, thank you. Columbia School Board also giving the green light to a $1.1 million architect services agreement. This involves a new elementary. It'll be built right next to South Columbia's John Warner Middle School. And the FBI, according to the Diocese of Jeff City, investigating alleged financial discrepancies at a historic Wardsville church. This involves a former pastor. No charges at this time. Our news time, 7:33. And news and sports this morning brought to you by Dr. Kent Willett Dental Associates. Make an appointment now, 445-5300, area code 573, WillettDentalAssociates.com. In sports, the Cardinals, pretty impressive last night, 6-1. They beat the Philadelphia Phillies. Corey Dickerson hit a home run last night. Team split their 4-game series. It seems like they've played each other quite a bit, about 8 times in the past couple of weeks. Miles Michaelis had 5 strikeouts, 0 walks. He goes 7 1/3. St. Louis now 2 back behind Milwaukee in the National League Central Division. The Cardinals hosting the Dodgers tonight at Busch Stadium. Dodgers 9-1 in their past 10 games. They're the leaders of the National League West. They've got a lot of talent, great pitching, great defense. Really not too many weaknesses on that team. First pitch 6:45 tonight, right here on 93.9 The Eagle. Royals sweep the doubleheader, the Monday night, day-night doubleheader. Day game yesterday, and of course the night game. Royals win the first game over Detroit 3-1. Nightcap 7-3. Bobby Witt Jr. from the Royals had 6 hits during the doubleheader. Between the 2 games, he also had 3 stolen bases. Again, sports brought to you by WillettDentalAssociates.com. Our news time, 7:34. Traffic check with MidmoHires.com. Our local companies are looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com to find a job. Post your job opening today. Our roads have been pretty quiet in mid-Missouri. Again, mile marker 180 in High Hill, Missouri, which is Montgomery County, right on the edge of our listening area, almost out of the listening area, but a lot of you head to St. Louis or Warrenton, that area, St. Charles, each day. There is a lane closed in each direction on the highway right now. MoDOT working there until 11 o'clock this morning as they continue to work on the damaged overpass. They hope to get that done and everything completed by Thursday, if not Friday of this week. I'm Brian Hauswirth, the 93.9 The Eagle. A live interview coming up next with John Wood.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
My view of our state today is that Democrats have no real chance. I don't think they've got a prayer. I just feel so strongly about it.
Mr. Danforth, John Danforth, has legendary name recognition in Missouri politics. I don't know what those thoughts are now. He's been saying for a while, kind of had a falling out with Josh Hawley, one of our senators, following the events of January the 6th, said we need somebody else, and he's brought forth a guy by the name of John Wood. Some of the things that we do know about John Wood, we know he was on the January 6th committee. We do want to know about that, want to know about the politics, and I think it is fair, before anybody passes judgment, like to learn more about the guy. Mr. Wood, we welcome you into the show, so let's start with the political, your politics, conservative, middle of the road, liberal. Let's meet you. Where are you politically?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. I am a common sense conservative. I've been a Republican my whole life. I remain a Republican, but I'm running for the U.S. Senate as an independent because I think the Missouri Republican primary has become a race to the bottom to see who can be the most divisive and the most extreme. And that's evidenced by Eric Greitens' behavior, not only his personal conduct, but a recent advertisement that he ran that seemed to glorify violence against his political opponents. And these were, political opponents of his own party, fellow Republicans. And so I didn't want to be involved in the primary for that reason, but I think it's essential that we have somebody who represents the views and values of Missouri voters. In my case, I consider myself a Ronald Reagan, Jack Danforth, conservative Republican.
I mean, if you really are a Republican, why not just run in the Republican primary? I mean, aren't people just saying maybe it's because you thought you couldn't win?
Well, as I was saying, I think that the Republican primaries become a race to the bottom to see who can be the most extreme and the most divisive. And that might work in a primary, as evidenced by the fact that Eric Greitens, despite all the news that's come out about his treatment of his ex-wife and his child and the fact that he resigned in disgrace as governor, Eric Greitens is still leading in most of the polls for the Republican primary. So I just decided that wasn't the right route, because the Republican primary has become all about appealing to a very small sliver of the base. And I should say the same thing's happening on the Democratic side, where they're trying to appeal to a very small sliver of the base on the political left, the liberals. So what we need in Missouri is somebody who represents the values and views of Missouri voters, which are generally conservative, but within the mainstream. Most Missourians don't want an extremist or somebody who's going to divide us further for political benefit.
Mr. Wood, thank you for joining us. I think it's important to also remind listeners you were a former U.S. attorney. I remember covering a couple of your cases. You were the U.S. attorney there in the Western District. Two very quick questions. Number one, my understanding of the law is that you would need to turn in, I believe it's 10,000 signatures by August. Are you there? Where are you on that?
Yeah, we're well on track to getting those signatures. I'd say it's only been a few days. I just announced about a week and a half ago that I was running, and took a little time to help train up both volunteers and staff who are going to help collect these signatures. But now that they've gotten started, they're making great progress. I think we're around 5,000. We're going to collect a lot more than the 10,000 just to be on the safe side, because we got to make absolutely sure that I get on the ballot. But I'm very confident that we're going to make that.
And I want to follow up with that. We appreciate the information. So you believe you'll be there if you get to the ballot, and it sounds like you'll be on the on the November ballot. What would your campaign focus on to win? We've never elected an independent to the U.S. Senate. It's only happened once, and in my lifetime, where an independent has won a congressional race. And you might remember that was Joanne Emerson in 1996, but she really wasn't an independent. It was a quirk. Her husband had died, a congressman, and she couldn't get on the ballot, so she ran as an independent and won. But how would you do that? This would be almost unprecedented in Missouri history for an independent to do this. How would you do it?
Well, these are unprecedented times. The fact that it looks likely that the Republican Party, which is, my party, is going to nominate Eric Greitens, who's a disgraced former governor who's been credibly accused by his ex-wife of beating her and their child. The fact that he looks likely to be the nominee suggests that this is an extraordinary time. And I think Missouri voters are just not going to tolerate either that extreme and divisiveness from the Republican Party or the kind of extreme and divisiveness we're going to get from the Democratic nominee, no matter who that turns out to be. That'll be somebody who's going to support Chuck Schumer for majority leader, will be a rubber stamp for the Biden, Schumer, Pelosi agenda, which has led to huge inflation, out of control federal spending, and is just out of touch with Missouri voters. So I think this creates a unique opportunity for somebody who's a mainstream, common sense conservative to win this race.
All right, John F. Wood. He's the Senate candidate running as an independent, put forth by John Danforth. And I got to ask you, because already, before you're out there, there's obviously already criticisms of stuff, and I'm trying to be realistic, and I'm also trying to be fair about this, because I got to wonder about this, and I consider myself a conservative-leaning independent. I want to tell you that. But already in the few minutes we've been hanging out, it's 3 times you've mentioned Greitens. It sounds almost like, that's like you are the intentional wrench to really screw things up and potentially ruin it for the Republican. You said you're a lifelong Republican. You're a Reagan Republican. And I hear you say Greitens 3 times in a matter of minutes. It sounds like potentially it could hurt the Republican chances of winning.
Well, I want to be very clear that I'm in this race to win it. I'm not in it to hurt any other candidate, whether it's the Republican nominee or the Democrat. I'm in this race because I believe that I will win it, because I represent the views and values of most Missouri voters. So I think that there's a really good shot that I can win this. Polling that I've seen from Senator Danforth and a group that he's associated with showed that even without attaching names to the major party nominees, that a Republican nominee, a Democratic nominee, and a Republican running in as an independent in the mold of Jack Danforth or Roy Blunt, that it'd be a basically even three-way race. That's, as I said, without associating names to it. I think that, if the Republican nominee will do far worse, if it's Eric Greitens, or even if it's not Eric Greitens, it's going to be somebody who's going to be divisive and extreme. And then I think the Democratic nominee, you'll see their numbers sink when you associate a name with it, because it's going to be somebody who's going to support Chuck Schumer for majority leader and be out of touch with Missouri voters. So I think there's a real opportunity here for a mainstream common sense conservative to win this race as an independent.
So I want to talk about your decision to enter the race. And so, a lot of folks have been doing this for a year, right? The folks that are already in the race. So when Roy Blunt announced his retirement, at that point, it didn't occur to you to think maybe I want to run for Senate. You've never, been in politics before. Tell me about, at what point did you think, yeah, I think it's time to get in the Senate race? And did you have that thought independently, or did it not occur to you until you were, tapped on the shoulder by Mr. Danforth?
Yeah, Senator Danforth came out with a poll that I just mentioned showing it would be a very close three-way race and that there's a real opportunity for a Republican, mainstream, common sense conservative running as an independent to win this. And so, that poll combined with Senator Danforth's very patriotic call for somebody to get into the race who's going to help unite us rather than divide us and help heal our country, that's really what drove me to get into the race. Of course, my preference was that Senator Danforth himself be the candidate. I think it would be great if he would make a return to politics, but he said he's not willing to do that, and so I answered his call to service.
So, when he tapped you on the shoulder and talked to you, you said, hey, it should be you. Was there anyone else that he talked to about potentially entering? Were there several people that he talked to? Were you the top choice, or were there other people who also declined?
I'm not aware of him talking to anybody else, but you'd have to ask him. So as far as I know, I'm the only one that he approached about this.
All right. Our opportunity to meet John F. Wood, independent Senate candidate, and got to ask you, and we're just getting an opportunity to know you. And one of the things you'll learn if you continue to come on our show, which I'm guessing that you will, so folks can learn about you and make their own decisions as they get to meet you. But one of the things I think you learn about us, I don't want to say we're low-key, but we're just very honest about things, and we expect the same out of our guest, whether it's the political realm or what. And sometimes we ask for the non-political BS answers. We just kind of want, because we're all guys and gals here, and sometimes, and you'll learn that, and you can ask other politicians around Missouri, and they'll tell you about Wake Up Columbia here on 93.9 The Eagle. But I want you to be real in talking to people so far, because I know you're getting the stuff, he's just an effing rhino and he's this, and you're throwing a wrench in the race. And I've even kind of said that to an extent. Again, I am being honest, and I expect the same out of you. And I'm guessing you are getting some of that. But and don't just blow smoke up our rear, because I'm always interested to know, because we think there's the extremes. There's the extreme progressives and extreme conservatives, and there's those tents. And I think what people forget about, there's a lot of people, and I don't want to use the phrase middle or rhino because people get triggered by that when you say those words, but there's a lot of sensible people that are saying, I like those ideas, I just don't need all the damn guns in the ads blowing stuff up. From those types of people, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm hearing from a lot of those people, a lot of people who share my conservative, common sense, mainstream conservative views and values, but just are tired of the craziness, and they're tired of politicians that are trying to divide us for their own political benefit. And you mentioned the guns. A lot of people are just so turned off, not just about Eric Greitens' ad with the gun. Vicky Hartzler's done an ad brandishing a weapon, I think, or at least featuring a weapon. And there was one just a few days ago from Eric Schmidt, with a blowtorch. People are tired of the sort of violence and the people acting tough to try to divide us. They want somebody who's going to bring us all together as Missourians and as Americans, and that's what I hope to do.
We're appreciative of your time. You've been generous with your time this morning. What can What can you tell us? Can you give us any inside info regarding the January 6th committee? You were a part of it. You are not a part of it now. I've heard that said inaccurately several times in recent days that you are not on the January 6th committee. Am I correct in that?
I'm no longer on the January 6th committee. I left in order to run for the U.S. Senate in Missouri.
What can you tell us? What are we not hearing in the news?
Well, there's going to be a hearing today that's going to.
But we know that. What can you tell us that we don't know?
Yeah, it's going to involve, as you probably know, a couple of live witnesses, one of whom is, a defendant in a case for having attacked the Capitol. Another is a former spokesperson for the Oath Keeper. And I think it's going to be a really interesting hearing because so far we've heard a lot from people who are lawyers or White House staffers where, it's really easy to sort of know what to expect from them because they've sat for their depositions and they're kind of professional people where you know what to expect. With a former Oath Keeper and somebody who attacked the Capitol, you don't know quite what to expect. Now, these are people who I expect will say they regret their actions and will shed light on why they did what they did and how it was potentially inspired by Donald Trump. But there could be a lot of uncertainty with a witness like that who may not be that friendly to the committee. So this will be a really interesting hearing to watch.
What time do you have to get off the phone? Because I do have another question here, but I'm trying to be.
I can stay on.
Okay. So here's the thing with this January 6th committee. By the way, our guest is John F. Wood, independent Senate for candidate put forward by Danforth, was on the January 6th committee hearing. I want some clarification here. I thought the January 6th hearing, it was to say, hey, Trump made those people do that stuff, and I think all that's BS. Those people are responsible for their own actions. It seems like the hearings have now more shifted to, election, the election fraud, and they were spreading false claims about the elections. I thought it was about trying to hold Trump responsible about the events of January 6th, but now it seems like they're failing there, and they're trying to go with this election stuff.
Oh, I don't think it's an issue of failing. This is not an impeachment hearing, though, so it's not just about Donald Trump's culpability. It's about what caused the attack on the Capitol so we can make sure it never happens again. And so obviously Donald Trump's actions and his words and his inactions while the attack was happening are a big part of it. But they're looking at more than that. The committee's looking at the role of domestic violent extremist groups, the role of what motivated the people who themselves went into the Capitol, like one of the witnesses we'll hear from today. What was the role of social media platforms that may have unintentionally led to this or contributed to this by using algorithms that gave greater prominence to divisive extremist rhetoric. So there are a lot of different factors that all went into what happened on January 6th. A big part of that is Donald Trump, and that's why you've heard so much about Donald Trump so far. But it's not just about Donald Trump.
So do you plan to watch the hearings today?
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
John F. Wood, independent Senate candidate. We'll chat again.
I'd love that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you for joining us this morning here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. Coming up a few minutes from now, we can read texts, reactions to this guy, or the connection between
Branden Rathert and Wake Up Columbia. Drinking upstream from the herd. 93.9 The Eagle.
Letters. I get
All right.
letters.
No letters, but a bunch of texts.
So many letters.
Especially
A whole bunch of letters.
when you feature somebody like John Wood, John F. Wood. A lot of preconceived notions regarding this guy. This guy's been put forward as an independent, John Danforth. By the way, John Wood said, well, I wanted John Danforth to run as kind of the conservative independent on his own. John Danforth, by the time the November rolls around, I think he'd be 87 years old, just as a point of fact. Shall we share what's happening on the text?
It's a lot.
Some of it's a little explicit. I don't know.
Pretty consistent. Here's my take. Here's the thing when I asked about the January, because he was on the January 6th committee, and we asked him about, and I was asking, what can you tell us about that we don't know? Well, it's on TV. Yeah, we know that already, but what? And here's my take, and I feel it feels like he was trying to say, yeah, this is a good thing. Now, he didn't say that, but the way he worded it, I would agree with the sentiments of a lot of people were saying is he's about this BS January 6th committee. That is a turnoff for me.
Yeah, do you want me to read some of them?
Can you have you pre-read them?
Yeah, this one is okay. I get wanting to stand in Greitens' way. He's a POS. What happens if Hartzler or Schmidt wins the primary? This fool is going to muck the Republicans then, too?
Yep. Appreciate those texts. That's the thing I'm wondering. Or what about folks, and I'll go back to the conversation on the Tobler show. He's here weekdays at 4 the other day. What about those folks say, well, if Greitens goes forward in the primary, do you vote for the Democrat? Or do you vote for this guy instead? Hartzler, Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler is here at 8:10. Reaction to Trump's not endorsements. Hi, I'm Branden Rathert for Gaps Automotive Repair Shop. Do us a favor. Go to Gaps. Go to our Wake Up Columbia Facebook page first, then go to Gaps. But you go to the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page, and we put together some video. When I say we, I mean Hannah, the producer, put it together, and it's pretty good. The point is about Gaps, and it's showing this real life experience. Somebody went and got my AC serviced. It's still not working. Well, because they didn't do an AC service, they just put Freon into it. Went to Gaps, said, hey, what's wrong? Gaps did an AC service. All right, and here's what the other folks didn't catch, because they do a service at Gaps. They found there was a kink in one of the hoses or tubes. I don't know cars. You got to go watch the video from Gaps on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page. And that, to me, always has been, always will be the difference with Gaps Automotive Repair Shop. Check them out. Gaps Automotive Repair Shop in Columbia and in Boonville.
Putting the focus on militants who stormed the Capitol. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The Unselect Committee, as former President Trump calls it, doing an investigation he calls a hoax, plans another House hearing in 4 hours. Democrats looking into last year's Capitol riot.
Testimony today is expected to look at the role groups like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys played in the violent Capitol breach last year. A committee aide says former President Trump turned to radical measures to stay in power.
Fox's Jared Halpern. Mexico's president's having breakfast with Vice President Harris. Then in 2 hours, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador will meet with President Biden at the White House.
We expect the two leaders to discuss their common vision for North America and common efforts to address global challenges, including Russia's war in Ukraine.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Republicans are demanding the president do more to stem the surge of migrants crossing the border illegally. Tonight, the president will take a flight to Israel.
Biden will be shown an array of missile defense systems built by Israel that shoot down rockets from places like Lebanon and Gaza. No major announcements are expected on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, though Biden will meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on Friday before heading to Saudi Arabia. The visit comes amid a growing regional threat from Iran.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Jerusalem next week. Russian President Vladimir Putin will go to Iran amid concerns that Iran's providing Russian forces with drones, some of them armed, to use in the war on Ukraine. It's going to be another scorcher across Texas where there are excessive heat warnings.
Yeah, areas of Texas. I mean, they've seen a number of consecutive days with above normal temperatures, a lot of days setting record highs.
National Weather Service meteorologist Tony Fracasso. In some areas like Waco, it could feel like 113 degrees. It's prompted Texas's electric grid operator to urge people to conserve power to avoid blackouts. A 3-year-old boy died in Miami Gardens, Florida, after being left in a hot car outside a preschool where his parents work and his siblings also go. America's listening to Fox News.
The economy is headed directly for a disaster. The Fed can either raise rates to lower inflation and trigger a stock and housing market crash, or it can keep rates low and potentially cause hyperinflation. That is why you must take action to protect your savings right now. Hi, this is Stephen K. Bannon, and I urge you to diversify your retirement account out of paper assets and into physical gold. The Birch Gold Group IRA is what I recommend to all my family and friends. And today, Birch Gold is giving away a free information kit about how gold IRAs work. To get your free copy, just text the word PROTECT to 989898. It's crucial for you to get this information before an economic disaster is in full swing. Again, text PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free information kit on gold. There's no obligation or purchase required, so do it now. Text PROTECT to 989898. Action, action, action. Use your agency. Take action today.
A few weeks after the Supreme Court.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 8:03 and Robinson saves you time. And right now we have sunny skies. 74 is our current temperature in Columbia. We're expecting a high today of around 88 degrees. Clear skies with a low near 65 tonight. Good morning, everyone. Here's some of the stories that we are working on for you in this 8 o'clock hour. A one-vehicle crash in rural Howard County has killed 2 Boonville residents from Boonville, Missouri. Missouri State troopers say Monday afternoon's crash happened on Highway 124. As James Dorman's vehicle traveled off the road, he hit a telephone pole, and the vehicle then overturned. The 20-year-old Dorman, D-O-R-M-A-N, was pronounced dead at University Hospital. 19-year-old Riley Randolph pronounced dead at the scene. Friday's Columbia court hearing involving the Missouri U.S. Senate candidate Eric Greitens' family court case has been called off. ABC 17's Layla Mitchell spent Monday at the Boone County Courthouse in Columbia.
A judge agreed that Sheena and Eric Greitens will no longer have to come to the Boone County Courthouse for a hearing on Friday to decide where to hold their family court case. Now, each parent will submit their sides of the case in writing. The judge will then decide whether or not to allow Sheena's request to move the case to Texas, where she now lives. An advocate for the children called today's hearing out of concern for the children and the constant media attention surrounding the case.
That's ABC 17's Layla Mitchell reporting from the Boone County Courthouse in Columbia. CPD detectives say one person has been shot overnight on Doris Drive in North Columbia near Creasy Springs Road. ABC 17's Ben Fine reports the shooting happened at about 3 a.m. The victim sustaining minor injuries and was not taken to a hospital. I also have been following up multiple times with CPD about the shooting that happened Saturday evening on the Cracker Barrel parking lot. I talked again yesterday to Christian Tabak, who's the spokesperson at CPD, Columbia Police Department, and no arrests have been made. There have been no arrests, and we still don't know the victim's condition, the person who was shot in that parking lot on Saturday, other than they remain hospitalized today. The head of Columbia Regional Economic Development Incorporated says American Airlines still plans to provide direct service from Columbia Regional to Charlotte in the future. American is currently providing direct service to Chicago as well as Dallas and Fort Worth. Ready Stacey Button tells 93.9 The Eagles host Fred Perry that American made a pre-pandemic commitment commitment to provide twice daily service to Charlotte.
So we received a federal grant to assist with that service, the startup for that service, and that is still absolutely planned for and intended. It is really incumbent upon the airline to, see stabilization in travel at this point.
You can hear Fred's full interview with Ms. Button on our website. That website is 939theeagle.com. They also talk about a number of other things. They talk about the new restaurant and bar that is being planned for the new terminal. That is now scheduled to come in at some point after the terminal opens. She can't announce anything yet, but says the public will like it, and she looks forward to sharing that news. And our news is brought to you in this 8 o'clock hour by the folks at Visit Missouri from Missouri Tourism. Discover the possibilities at visitmo.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time is 8:06. Dodgers, here we go. Cardinals hosting the Dodgers tonight at Busch Stadium. Red Hot Dodgers 9-1 in the past 10, and they lead the National League West. First pitch is set for 6:45, 93.9 The Eagle this evening. The Royals sweeping Monday's day-night doubleheader with Detroit at Kauffman Stadium. Royals win the first game 3-1, the nightcap 7-3. Bobby Witt Jr., 6 hits during the doubleheader. He also had 3 stolen bases during the 3 games. 6 hits in the doubleheader. That's very impressive. Bobby Witt Jr. Continues to impress. And our sports is brought to you this hour by Missouri Heart Center, comprehensive cardiovascular care in the heart of Missouri. MoHeartCenter.com. 93.9 The Eagle News Time is 8:07. John, thank you so much, and great work this morning on television with Megan Drakish. You're both doing a fine job. Weather brought to you by Callaway County Human Resources. You can apply now for a 911 telecommunicator and detention officer jobs today. 74 degrees. And it's 8:09 here on 93.9 The Eagle, 93.9theeagle.com. Traffic with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. MidmoHires.com. Just a quick reminder, in Jefferson City, one lane, the eastbound direction, will be closed at 9 o'clock this morning. The Missouri River Bridge, soon to be named the Roy Blunt Memorial Bridge in Jefferson City, named for our Missouri Senior Senator Roy Blunt. That bill from Shamed Dogan takes effect on August the 28th. One lane will be closed eastbound direction from 9 this morning until 3. Be prepared for that. That'll also affect that ramp there on West Main. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
Now it's time to check in on the leader of the free world, who this week proved that he will, Ron Burgundy style, read anything on the auto cue. Anything.
And cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of the men who do so. End of quote. Repeat the line.
Yeah, just like the legendary fictional news anchor for one of the funniest movies ever made, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
So here's the thing. So we know Joe Biden, he can't read a teleprompter, and okay, that's fine. The bigger picture here, that is a foreign reporter, Air TV, making fun. You heard her going into that story. Let's check in with the leader of the free world. So if you're a regretful Biden voter, you're whatever, and you're thinking, these are just conservative talking points. You come in every day and criticize the president. That is, number one, a misperception of what happens here. Number two, the bigger point is, you see what happens? This is how the world sees us. Their late-night comedy TV, they poke fun of the United States of America, which is cool. They poke fun at our leader. That is our image in the world. Want to bring in Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler. We'll talk about that a little bit, but want to start here. Congresswoman, thank you so much for your time. First of all, I got to go to this thing, Trump, over the weekend. I am an ardent Trump supporter. I look at your record on Trump. I know what you have done for him, but I want to get more personal than political here. You know us. I want you to be as personal and as honest as possible. How did that strike you after we saw the tweet from, you read the exact language? I take it as it's almost harsh. She could have said, hey, listen, I'm not endorsing Hartzler. So I just want to ask you, how did that strike you? And be honest, be human about this.
Well, I was surprised and taken aback somewhat by it, because I voted with the president more than any other Senate candidate, not just in the state, but in the nation, people who are currently in office and running for the Senate. And, you know, I worked beside him to try to rebuild the military, and we've made great strides. We secured the border. America was a net exporter for the first time. I've been the pro-life leader alongside him and other things. So, you know, I'm sorry that he did that, but, you know, the endorsement that matters most to me is the endorsement of the Missouri people. And the fact is, we are leading in this poll right now, and I'm so grateful for the support we are receiving from every county, every corner of this state. And they recognize that I am one of them who has been fighting for them, who has that track record of getting things done, who's been a lifelong conservative. And who they can relate to, because not only do I actually love and care about people, and that's what drives me to serve, but also, you know, I'm a former teacher who's been on the front lines fighting for our conservative academics for our kids, and that they be taught ABCs and not CRT. I'm a small business owner that signed the front of a paycheck, not just the back, and I understand about job creation and how difficult it is with government regulations and taxation hurting businesses. And I'm a lifelong farmer, and that's our number one industry, and that's why Missouri Farm Bureau and the Cattlemen's and Corn Grower and Soybean Associations have all endorsed me, and also the Missourian that we all respect as the main conservative voice in our nation, and that's Josh Hawley, and I'm grateful for his endorsement. And I look forward to getting out the next 3 weeks. We're going to have a Heartland tour, go all over this state, and to visit with even more Missourians and earn their votes. And I feel good about what's going to happen on August 2nd as we lead a movement of Missourians to take back our country.
Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, also running for U.S. Senate, joining us here. Primary, 21 days away. Always a good chat with you. I want to ask you this. On our show personally, and I'm speaking on behalf of Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, Hannah, the producer, we have had over the past almost going on maybe a year now, we have had an influx of regretful Biden voters, of younger people tuning into Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle, going, okay, I regret that I did that. Here's how it works. Mm-hmm. And we're getting a lot of that. People kind of getting a new understanding of politics, people that hadn't followed them before, how those decisions affect them and their life today, going to work and all that things. We're getting that, I mean, in droves. Mm-hmm. And I say that as compliments to Stephanie and Hannah and Brian and myself. But do you, by chance, you ever get any of that on the campaign trail? Like, yeah, Congresswoman, I used to vote Democrat. I voted for Joe, and I'm not liking that. Do you, by chance, get any of that?
Somewhat, but you know, I've been going to a lot of Republican functions, you know, Lincoln Days and things like that. So a lot of people there already know how disastrous his policies are. But that's so encouraging to hear, and I believe that is happening. Who could not say that? I mean, when you go to the grocery store and you see the prices going through the roof, you can't afford to fill your car with gas. That's real, and people know that it's a Biden inflation. This isn't Putin's inflation, and they've tried to hide everything and blame other people for these failed policies. But this is directly as a result of them shutting off American energy, of them spending money that we don't have, sending it out of Washington, D.C. over and over again. People know, and I don't think they're fooled by the Democrats trying to cover this up and blame other people.
Congresswoman, we appreciate you joining us live. I want to go back to the phone call with you and former President Trump. Apparently there was a phone call on Friday, and he says that you asked for his endorsement. As I pointed out on the air yesterday, very important to note, because for people that forget, you did vote against the January 6th Commission. You voted against both impeachments. You voted. Right. You voted for the wall. I couldn't think of any major issue you voted against him on, and I watch it very, very closely. But this is what the former president wrote in part about you. Quote, I was anything but the quote here. I was anything but positive in that I don't think she, meaning you, has what it takes to take on the radical left Democrats together with their partner in the destruction of our country, the fake news media, and of course, the deceptive and foolish rhinos, end of quote. Congresswoman, your thoughts on that statement, and B, was there animosity on the call? Where did that come from?
Well, no, there wasn't. I just have talked to him a few times over the course of this campaign, and he's been very interested, obviously, in what's going on in Missouri. And so I was calling him, giving him an update, because the Trafficker independent poll that came out just about a week ago showed that I had retaken the lead, despite having over $2.5 million of attack ads waged against me the previous 4 weeks by my opponents. And that was huge news, as well as receiving the Missouri Farm Bureau endorsement. So I wanted to call and give him an update on that. And I obviously said I would appreciate his support, and it would mean a lot. And we had, overall a very positive conversation. And so, like I said, it's disappointing. I think he's, perhaps I'm just theorizing because we really didn't talk about that, but I think he's bought into some of the lies of my opponents. But the fact that what he said there is just wrong. Because I do have the track record of fighting in Washington, standing up to the liberals, the Democrats, fighting for our values. I've been on the forefront of speaking up for our values as chairman of the House Values Action Team, leading the amicus brief that we won before the Supreme Court a week ago on behalf of Joe Kennedy, winning before the Supreme Court and leading that amicus brief on behalf of Trinity Lutheran, 2 huge religious liberty cases. But I've also been suspended from my Twitter account because I've had the courage to speak up for women's sports and girls. And I was the one that offered the amendment in the defense authorization bill a few years ago to say that we can't use taxpayer dollars for sex change operations for transgenders, and got a huge pushback for that. I mean, I'm not afraid to take on the tough issues and to speak up for common sense and for our Judeo-Christian values. And people know that. So he's wrong. Y'all note he did not call me a rhino, which I was thankful for that, because certainly I'm not. But, I take on members of my own party at times, too, when I have to. And, that's what's important in this Senate race. And I just want to remind people of why I'm running, and that's because we are in crisis as a nation. And I'm the only one running in this race who has that track record of fighting and getting things done. I'm the only one who's been sanctioned by China because of my outspokenness against what they're doing and my expertise on this issue as a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. I'm the only one that's passed legislation on behalf of our Gold Star families and been a champion for our veterans, and helped pass legislation to expand rural broadband, introducing legislation for our cattle farmers. And I could go on, but I won't, with all the legislation and the things that I have done. And that's what we need on day one, is a senator who is one of us, who has a track record of fighting for us. And I'm looking forward to visiting with Missourians and earning their endorsement August 2nd.
Now, earlier today, we talked to Senate candidate John Wood, and it's interesting because I think you, as Brian just discussed, you were criticized by President Trump for maybe being a little bit too middle of the road. Now, candidate Wood seems to suggest everyone in the Republican primary is a little too extremist, and that, that's why we need a middle of the road candidate. What are your thoughts on his candidacy?
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, he is not, one of us. He's been out there in Washington, D.C., being an investigator on this January 6th commission. I mean, he's an attorney out there who hasn't been fighting for Missouri values, doesn't live here, as far as I know. And Missouri deserves somebody who is one of them, a lifelong conservative, because we have the values that this country needs. We have the ideas that we need. We need somebody to stand up against Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. I ran to get rid of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House in 2010, and we succeeded. Sadly, she's back, but I believe this year we'll take the majority back in the House. But I'm running to take the majority also over in the Senate and get rid of Chuck Schumer. You know, the East and the West Coast, and that's where John Wood has been living, they don't share our values. And it's those people who are ruining our country with their terrible policies that have fueled inflation, had a wide open border, and have made us weak on the world stage. So we need somebody with the experience and expertise and track record, and that's me.
All right, Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. Appreciative of your time. What are you hearing from other Democratic lawmakers when it comes to Joe? Because we saw Joe last week in Ohio, high-profile Democrats staying away from that event. We see CNN, MSNBC yesterday, even CNBC. They're going after Joe. You have any exchanges with Democrats in D.C. as it relates to our current president?
No, most of them are just keeping their head down, trying to, avoid saying anything about their leader, if you call him a leader. I think they know deep down in their gut that they're in trouble. We have record number of Democrats retiring this year, and I think it's because they see the head right on the wall. They don't want to be defeated, and they don't want to be in the minority again, and they know that's what's happening. But we can't take that for granted. Having said that, Republicans and conservatives and common sense people cannot sit back and just assume that's going to happen. We've got to come out in record numbers this year, both August 2nd as well as in November 8th, and take back our country and make sure that we take the power back from these liberals from the East and West Coast that are running our country.
30 seconds. Anything else you want to add before we let you go, Congresswoman?
I've just been honored to serve this area as you are your Congresswoman, and I would be honored to serve you as your U.S. Senator to take our values, our common sense to the Senate. And I ask for your support and vote, and that you go to VickyHartzler.com and join me in this movement of Missourians to take back our country. You can sign up to volunteer. You can order a T-shirt, bumper sticker, yard sign, and you can contribute and invest. And I look forward to working with you to saving our country.
Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler, U.S. Senate candidate 2022 primary, 21 days away. Thank you for your time this morning. Wake Up Columbia Daily Morning Bell.
Oh, no.
always certain. Sometimes right. This is Branden Rathert and Wake Up Columbia, 93.9 The Eagle.
What do they do? So before we get into the morning bell, business news with that little twist. And I'm loving the twist today, actually, because there's a lot of things going on with this story. As a matter of fact, it's not because we're running behind. It's just because the story deserves so much more attention. We're not late. We ain't running behind. It's just today's story deserves way more attention than what we can give it here. You got to check this. It is actually really, really interesting, and that's why it's business news, that little twist, only Stephanie Bell.
And why can't we give it more attention here?
Well, because it's a big story, and there's a lot going on. It involves kind of one of the members of the show, and there's a lot going on there. But it's worth
a good spin. I'll give you that.
Thank you. Worth sticking around for. We're going to do that for you 5 minutes from now. The connection between Snoop Dogg and Joe Biden. I love this too. Right now, I have your ABC 17 storm track forecast up to 88 today, 91 tomorrow, 92 on Thursday. Right now, it's kind of muggy, 76 degrees. Weather brought to you by Callaway County Human Resources. Apply for the 911 telecommunicator officer jobs today.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. There's another hearing today of the House Committee investigating the Capitol riot.
Today's hearing is set to explore ties that existed between far-right extremist groups and former President Trump, leading up to the January 6th riot. The hearing today and likely next week may be the last ones expected, but new evidence and more people interested in talking could alter that course.
Fox's Gernal Scott, former President Trump, calls committee testimony from former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson fake and made up. President Biden leaves tonight on a trip to the Middle East, starting in Israel.
Biden will be shown an array of missile defense systems built by Israel that shoot down rockets from places like Lebanon and Gaza. No major announcements are expected on the Israel-Palestine conflict, though Biden will meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas on Friday before heading to Saudi Arabia.
Fox's Trey Yingst. America's listening to Fox News.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Hauswirth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners. It is 8:31 and Robinson's saves you time. Sunshine 76 is our current temperature right now in Columbia. We're expecting a high today of around 88 degrees. Clear skies tonight, low near 65. Tomorrow is Wednesday, sunny and a high of 91. Good morning. I'm Brian Hauswirth. Here are some of the stories we're working on for you in this 8 o'clock hour. Columbia School Board gives a green light to a $1.1 million architect services agreement involving a new elementary school to be built next to South Columbia's John Warner Middle School. Michelle Baumstark at CPS tells 93.9 The Eagle the time is now. She notes all the growth that is happening in that area in South Columbia. About a 500-foot subdivision is also going to be built nearby. Now, that is all being funded by the April bond issue, $80 million bond issue approved by the voters. The school is about $25 million of that. Board also approving an architect agreement for the Columbia Area Career Center renovations. They'll get a $15 million addition in renovation. Columbia police detectives say one person shot overnight, Doris Drive, North Columbia. That's near Creasy Springs. ABC 17's Ben Fine says that person was not taken to a hospital. Minor injuries for the person who was shot. Boone County Fair is opening 1 week from tonight at the fairgrounds on Oakland Gravel Road. Boone County Fair Board President Jeff Cook says the Royal Legacy Circus is coming.
And that is high wire acts. They have some dog acts. So we're really excited about that. And they perform twice every evening.
Boone County Fair, July 19th to the 23rd. It's a Tuesday through a Saturday. Ham breakfast that morning, the 23rd at 8. Tickets are $20 a piece. And news is brought to you this hour by MoHeartCenter.com. Turning our attention now to sports on this Tuesday morning. The Cardinals offense is rebounding. Corey Dickerson hit a home run last night. Cardinals beat the Phillies by a score of 6-1. The team split the 4-game series. Miles Michaelis, 5 strikeouts, 0 walks in 7 1/3 innings. St. Louis 47-42. 2 games behind the Brewers in the National League Central Division. Cardinals and the Dodgers tonight at Busch Stadium. Red Hot Dodgers 9-1. In their past 10, they lead the National League West First pitch set for 6:45 on 93.9. The Eagles should be a good game. Royals sweeping a day-night doubleheader with Detroit Monday at the K, Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City. Royals win the first game 3-1. Nightcap 7-3. Bobby Witt Jr. had 6 hits during the doubleheader. And don't forget, the All-Star game will be played 1 week from tonight. It'll be the 19th, and that game will be in Chavez Ravine at that location, Dodger Stadium there in Los Angeles. Our news time is 8:34. In news and sports, by the way, brought to you by Hemi Construction, homes and lots in the southwest neighborhoods of Chapel Hill Meadows, Nursery Heights, and Creek's Edge. Our time right now, 8:34, and it's traffic time with MidmoHires.com. Local companies are looking for local people. Roads have been pretty quiet here in mid-Missouri. We haven't had too many problems on the roads this morning. And again, for those of you in Jefferson City, 1 lane eastbound on the Missouri River Bridge in Jeff City will be closed starting at 9 o'clock this morning. Here in about 25 minutes until about 3 o'clock today, you can expect some delays. I'm Brian Hauswirth, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
That the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
So I'm watching reactions right now. Nobody knows about this story here on the show. Interns, Hannah the producer, Brian Hauswirth, Stephanie Bell. Nobody knows that I was bringing this up. And if you were watching on our YouTube channel, 93.9 The Eagle, number one, you'll notice I look really, really good today. We've been getting a lot of comments like, man, Branden looks awesome. And I don't ever get that. Everybody
what an
says,
improvement.
Yeah, Mr. Hauswirth looks good. The newly engaged Hannah, the producer, looks excellent. Stephanie is hot. We get that all the time. But today, I'm getting a lot of compliments.
That's awesome.
You are.
I look good. Have you seen this, Hauswirth? That's why it looks so good. That's why you should go to our YouTube channel.
Almost looks like you're in the witness protection program.
That was beautiful. Oh, that is maybe my second favorite Brian Hauswirth line, right next to "Rest in Peace, Taco Bell."
The only thing that if Mike Wallace were interviewing you, they'd have to disguise your voice.
Maybe that megaphone he tried to make earlier has some sort of voice distortion. Should we turn out the lights in the studio
awesome.
just to,
That is awesome.
hide a little more?
Hot. Where was I?
That was funny.
You look good. You look good. So
yeah, I look good today. So check it out. Where was I? So we played the audio.
Getting roasted by Brian Hauswirth.
By the way, I want to have a roast. I've hinted. I haven't asked the girls. You know how
you have flat out told us.
I guess I
essentially.
have. I would love to have a roast for my birthday, and I don't know whether you do it on the show or do it like at some little theater, some little auditorium.
You want us to book a venue?
And have for charity, and we do it for like a charity, because I'm getting ready to work with the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, not Boys and Girls Club, because every time I say Big Brothers Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club, no, Big Brothers Big Sisters, different program, great program. I hope you check it out. But I'm getting ready to do some stuff with them, and I'm wondering if I could do this fundraiser and get roasted on my birthday. Have like Sheriff Dwayne Carey, Chief Jeff Jones, Governor Parson, you guys. I'd fly my ex-wife in from Idaho, the first ex-wife.
Oh, no, both of them.
Yeah, probably just the one.
It has to be fair.
Yeah,
fair.
Yeah, probably just the first one. The second one we haven't talked since.
You're not planning your own birthday roast. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well,
apparently we have to all pay to go too.
Yeah.
But we do it for like a charity or something.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, and what Brian just said over the previous 2 minutes would be what would happen at the roast. Where was I? Okay.
Fun.
So playing this. So I was watching everybody here on the show. And that tells me, I think, that I am right on with this audio that we're playing from Jill Biden.
That the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx, as beautiful as the blossoms of Miami, and as unique as the breakfast tacos here in San Antonio.
And so I was watching everybody's reactions on the show, and nobody flipped out. Nobody knew it was coming up, but they listened to it. Some people are flipping out because she said, the breakfast tacos or burritos here in San Antonio, and some people got upset. Well, we're not a breakfast taco or breakfast burrito. They're taking it to be racist or whatever, and they are uber progressive, idiotic imbeciles to think that, because I watch my friends here, and I'm like, yeah, nobody took offense. So, and I bring that up, so, sometimes got to be reasonable and back these people. Now, let's talk about Joe. No, let's not do that. Let's go back to, so that tells me, watching everybody's reactions, everybody's like, okay, that's just folks looking for a reason to be upset because she said breakfast burritos in San Antonio. Time for the morning bell. Usually we do it about 8:28 in the mornings, but not this morning because it's a worthwhile topic, and we weren't going to have enough time there at 8:28 to do it. Morning bell. We do it every morning, 8:28, and here's what it is. It's business news, but there's this little twist, and the only one that I have been able to find that can give that little twist is Stephanie Bell, and I'm loving what we have this morning.
Yeah, so Sunday, the post office raised the price to mail a letter. When's the last time you mailed a letter?
Oh, I don't know. I 22 cents is what I remember paying for stamps. You'd go and buy the book of the sticky stamps. They were 22 cents. That's the last time I've mailed anything.
No. They went up from 58 to 60 cents. Now, if you want to mail a small piece of paper, and I'm thinking about my poor friend Hannah, who just got engaged, and I want to hear what she's doing because, I'm going to show my age, but
and she's showing her ring right now on the camera, her engagement ring.
I'm convinced that the wedding invitation people and the Postal Service were in cahoots because I went to go I remember mail my invitations, and back then I actually went to a store that was totally dedicated to stationery. You could have people hand do calligraphy and write. There wasn't all this fancy printing and online invitations. You wrote it out, and you could even do a wax seal. You then enclosed a separate envelope with another stamp on it so people could RSVP in the mail. But I remember getting there being like, oh, I just need the regular stamp. And they're like, oh, this is an unusually sized envelope, so you need the higher stamp. And I remember, I think it was $55 when I mailed my wedding invitations. Now, if you have an unusual envelope, it's 99 cents. So think about that. If I did it today, it would be $1 to mail the unusual envelope, and then it would be 60 cents for the return in there. And so I'm thinking about it. Of the invitations I've gotten recently, one was hand delivered to me because the person knows me. One was more of a postcard, and postcards are cheaper. And then also on both, the RSVP was, hey, RSVP online. Don't mail me something back.
I was going to say, can I just start a big group text? Hey, you going to be there? Yes or no?
What are you is wedding invitation stationery? Because people still they have the picture in their photo book of their invitation with the heels and the ring. It's a thing. Are you doing that or no?
I don't know yet. I think we're trying to find a venue that's not a gazillion dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So after we get that done, we'll start focusing on the smaller stuff. But I have seen a lot more of the online RSVP. You scan a QR code.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really smart because I am also the wedding guest that forgets to mail the RSVP and causes issues.
For sure.
And I'm the wedding guest that doesn't know how to do the Q code thing when they send me the text or I don't respond, and then folks got to come to me for clarification. So here's what I've done to settle that problem. I just book vacations when their weddings are happening. I already told Hannah this morning. We were talking about her wedding. I said, Hannah, as soon as you let me know when your wedding is, let me know so I can book some time to be out of town.
Now, I assume you're talking about a good friend of the show.
Cousin Andy.
Yeah. You wasted 20 minutes of his life as he was trying to figure out who your +1 was going to be.
Well, I was trying to figure out who my +1 was going to be, too.
You wanted him to just put Mr. Rathert's guest on the name card, and that's so
cringe.
Cringy.
What's so cringy about that? It sounds reasonable to me.
Your date would immediately know that you had no idea who you were going to take to the wedding.
But those folks would know that's how I roll. They get that.
Ugh. But no, it was bad enough that you wasted 20 minutes of his life. And then come to find out you can't even attend the wedding in the first place. So it was all for nothing.
Details, man.
See, for your wedding, Hannah, I would think that Branden would like go out and get one of those like online officiants certificate and then come to you and be like, I'm ready. Let's do this.
I have already told my fiance that Branden Rathert is not allowed to have a microphone at our wedding. We have actually had this conversation, and I'm not even kidding.
I told my DJ that at my wedding. I said, you haven't been fully paid, and you don't get the rest of the money till the end. Do not hand the microphone to anybody unless I say so.
So then here's what happens. So then when you get married, and so I heard about this once 7 years ago. There are some of us couples hanging out. And I was told, hey, so when you meet this couple, the guy, Chad, just so you know, if his wife dies, the gal that I was dating said, we already have an agreement. I get to marry her husband. And I was kind of like, I don't know that I've ever heard that before. But it's a kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing. I didn't have that arrangement. I had in Grey's Anatomy, they left someone, Christina and Burke were supposed to get married, and I think it was Burke left Christina standing at the aisle, and people were like, oh my gosh, what happened? And I said, this wedding was so much work, I am not going to do it again. So I told Chris, I'm getting married that day, and if you walk out, I'm going to pick someone else, and there are people in that audience that would say yes, so I'm going to get married. And so anyway, we always kind of joked about who's number two, and he said, well, then if you get that deal, I get that deal. So I have a friend that he calls number two.
Now, does the friend know that she's the number two?
Oh,
and
yeah.
But you don't have a number two.
I don't really. I never really picked anybody, but I would have married someone else that day. Now, but like we're all married now, so it's not like I'm wishing death on anybody else.
Right. So when I heard this come up, because I was listening to my weekly Martha Stewart stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Actually,
that's so embarrassing. Are you for real?
No, I'm not. Randy Tobler, who hosts the Randy Tobler Show, turned me on to it. Anyhow, but it came up as Chelsea Handler and Martha Stewart, and this Chelsea Handler chick is asking Martha about her love life, and like this whole thing came up.
I had 2 mad crushes in the last month, which is really good for me.
Yeah.
But
by the way, you get points to Martha for using the word mad. Just trying to be hit. I had 2 mad crushes.
It turns out, one of them is married to the mother of some friends of mine, and he's so attractive.
But you can't be a homewrecker.
No, I'm not. I've never been a homewrecker.
No,
never, and I've tried really hard not to be.
I've been to jail, but I've never been a homewrecker. Oh, God. And
Branden, weren't you a homewrecker for a while?
Yeah. Well, I never
didn't even try to deny it.
Well, I gotta be honest. Well, I didn't wreck homes.
He was just a side piece for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well,
it gets worse. The Martha stuff gets way worse. So.
Well, now don't hand me out there to drive. The reason I did that stuff is because I didn't have to worry. I don't behave that way anymore, and haven't for like 3 weeks now. It's not something I do anymore, but. It was because I didn't have to worry about commitment. I thought, if this person I'm hanging, and please don't behave this way, but the person I'm hanging out with, if they're married, I don't have to worry about them wanting to commit to me because they're already married. All right.
Oh, boy.
Martha, she's not done.
It's hard to.
I've had the opportunity to be a homewrecker, and I have not taken anybody up on it.
So then I'm wondering, okay, so who's
propositioning Martha? How old? I gotta Google this. How old? I mean, good on Martha for being that old and still.
Martha's got mad skills when it comes to the data game. She still ain't done.
And that's really where I meet men. They're all married to friends of mine or something like that. Or maybe they'll die. I always think, oh gosh, couldn't that person just die?
The wife.
Yeah, not painfully, just die. And then
Dang, Martha.
Also, so she's 80.
No.
Yes, that's what this says.
She's 80 years old.
80, and she's still got mad crushes on people and hoping other people's husbands die so she could. I wonder, do you sign a prenup as an 80-year-old? I assume you do, or are you just like.
I don't know.
You're just.
I never would have guessed that she was 80.
She was like 50 making cookbooks before she went to prison, and now she has the second career as being like Snoop Dogg's BFF.
She was born in 1941.
Yeah, you're talking John Danforth territory there. By the way, Snoop Dogg I think we're going to do some leftovers. We're going to open up Martha Stewart's fridge and see what kind of dainty leftovers she has. We're going to do leftovers coming up 5 minutes from now. And Snoop Dogg and his connection to Joe Biden. You're going to love this. We'll do that 5 minutes from now on
This is Woke Up Columbia. And not really. Just kidding. 93.9 The Eagle.
That the diversity of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx.
Jill Biden, so we're talking, some folks are upset, she said, because of the breakfast burritos in San Antonio, and I back Jill Biden on that. Nothing offensive there, but we've had several folks, and I caught it too, but I'm not sure.
Of this community, as distinct as the Bogotas of the Bronx.
So I didn't put two and two together either, but we have Wake Up Columbia family members asking if she meant bodegas?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
That's cringier, in my opinion, than
breakfast tacos
burritos
in San Antonio.
Well, and the headlines are reading, she's basically said Hispanics are as unique as tacos, which, you know, when you boil it down, that does, I mean, that's pretty, there's a lot to be said that you could say about the Hispanic community besides the fact that, you know, they're associated with their food. Seriously, mention a historical figure, somebody local that's given back to the community, mention an artist. There are so many other things she could have said besides tacos.
Is it worth getting upset about?
I'm not triggered by it, but...
Here's a big old serving of leftovers on 93.9 The Eagle. Enjoy.
All right, leftovers this morning. We are opening up Martha Stewart's fridge, the woman who is asked to be a homewrecker on occasion.
There's some good stuff in here.
But it says she has some friends she wish that they would die so that she could take their husbands. But one of the folks that Martha Stewart has hung out with over the years, matter of fact, you should see these two together on some of the Comedy Central roasts in the past. Her and her bud, Snoop Dogg.
Bud.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
All right. Her and her bud, Snoop Dogg is. I'm featuring him in Leftovers today. He's come up with a new brand of weed, and it's modeled after Joe Biden. And you get the packaging. It says you'll get so high you won't even know what state you're in.
Oh my gosh.
So even listen, Snoop Dogg is going after Joe Biden, man. You got anything for leftover stuff? No, Hannah. Oh, barbecue. We were going to do barbecue. We were going to do St. Louis versus Kansas City style barbecue. Hannah posted on the Wake Up Columbia Facebook page. Huge response. If you're not friends with us yet, get on there. It was a landslide, Kansas City style barbecue.
Did you just ask me a question and then before I could answer?
Is that how you were going to answer?
No.
Well, and this ruffled some feathers last week. The mayor of Kansas City was like, "Oh, hell no. Like, this is BS." And I think he even like put a cuss word with some stars in his Twitter and said, hands down, KC's the best. And so there was this big kind of uproar of KC versus St. Louis. Now, part of it they said was like access and quality. So is it just like the number of barbecue? Because it should not be judged on that.
Yeah, I think it was somebody did a survey, and it showed that St. Louis style barbecue was better than Kansas City style barbecue. And so, of course, the mayor of STL, Tashara Jones, the mayor of KC, we're getting into it. It's kind of fun.
It is fun. We're lucky that both places have decent barbecue, and there's some really good places here in mid-Missouri.
So we are fortunate. My dad is getting excited. How come? Well, because that's his favorite talk show, man. It's the Gary Nolan Show. He's coming up just minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle. See ya.
Bye.